All right, hello everybody. Welcome to the newest episode of Super Make Something Live. Thank you for joining us on this fine Saturday. It's exciting that it's the weekend, even though, we have been at home most of the last couple months just due to quarantine, but hopefully with everything else going on in the world, today is going to be a special day for two reasons, and we can all take a little bit of a break and get excited. For one, obviously this live stream, it's the first time we'll ever be setting up the Delta-style printer on Super Make Something Live, which is awesome, of course. But then later on today, also NASA and SpaceX, for the first time, will be trying to launch astronauts into space using a commercial rocket on the Demo 2 mission. So that starts at 3:22 p.m. today. So thank you for tuning in before that live stream to watch this one. And yeah, I hope we can all have a good time. I see here that the chat is live and people are already in here. So hello, Max. Hello, Brian. If you do type a message, it will end up on the screen, which is awesome. And I see that is also working, which is great. Hello, Dave. Welcome. Thank you very much for tuning in. It seems that a lot of people already have the QQ-S, which is awesome. I'm super excited to set it up today to see what happens. So a couple quick housekeeping notes before we get started. This printer was provided courtesy of Gearbest. They sent me this printer to set up on a live stream and to give it a review, but there was no other kind of financial backing, so any type of impression that I give about this printer will be my own opinion. Also, this stream today is sponsored by PCBWay. So PCBWay is a manufacturer of printed circuit boards, as their name suggests. And in any kind of maker project that you might do with Arduino and other things, oftentimes when you get to a point in your project where you really want to kind of make it more permanent or make it a bit more robust, you need probably circuit boards. So PCBWay offers you one way to do that. And for viewers of today's live stream, they gave us a special code, which is exciting. If you use code SUPERMAKE in your order, and you're one of the first 100 people to do so, you get $10 off your order of $10 or more. So essentially, you get free PCBs. So kind of after we set this printer up, what we're going to do is we're going to slice a benchy, test it, and then we're going to look at some of the details of the printer and some of the special technical aspects that they do. But then I'll also show you guys how to kind of upload your own PCB files to PCBWay while it's printing. And then finally, what we're going to do is we're going to take the benchy, which hopefully will have completed printing perfectly, and we will compare it to some other benchies that we have previously printed on this live stream. Also, another quick note, as you might have noticed, the studio has gotten a bit of an upgrade, so decided to add a couple more cameras, add a couple more lights. In general, I think when I tested the stream, everything did seem to be working, but if there are any technical issues, do please let me know, and we'll try to address those on the fly in the live stream. But otherwise, yeah, I hope everybody has a good time, learn some fun stuff, and we'll have a successful printer setup today. Alrighty. So, to get started, let us first take a look at the FLSUN QQ-S. So, as I'm sure you know from the title, the FLSUN QQ-S is a Delta-style printer, which is different than a Cartesian-style printer. So, after we set up the printer, we'll go into a little more detail, but the gist of Delta printers is essentially that unlike Cartesian printers, where you have separate stepper motors for the x-axis, the y-axis, and the z-axis, instead, what you need to do is you have three independent motors on essentially linear rails that have to move in tandem in order to position the printhead appropriately in order to get everything printing correctly. So that's kind of the big differentiator. The advantage to this is that because the motors are essentially off board, it's very similar to a Bowden-style printer where you don't have any of the extruder motors or anything located on the printhead, and that means you can print extremely quickly, which is great. Because of the geometry of the printer, though, one other thing to note about the printer is that it usually has a circular build area. So unlike the Cartesian printers, which are usually square, because of the geometry of the rails, you're actually ending up with a circular build area. So in this case, that's a 255 millimeter diameter build area. And as a result of that setup, you also typically have a larger printer height for kind of comparable bed sizes. So in this case, the print height for this printer is 360 millimeters, so quite tall. Definitely something that you could use, for example, to print a model rocket, which would be appropriate given the launch that's happening later on today. But certainly this printer is good for any type of kind of very tall objects that you might want to print. Also very common these days, which the FLSUN QQ-S also incorporates, is something they call a lattice composite bed. This is very similar to the maker base or the diamond plated glass that we find on other printers, for example, like the JG Aurora 5S or any of the other kind of larger format 3D printers. And essentially what that is, it's a specially coated glass where once it heats up, it's slightly textured and the prints adhere to the bed very well without needing to do anything like adding tape or adding glue. But then once the bed cools down, the prints remove from the print bed very easily. So that's potentially a nice thing to be aware of, because unlike, you know, other printers where, for example, you put tape on, you're not going to spend 10 minutes or so prying anything off the print bed, and you're also hopefully not going to unlevel the printing surface. Speaking of leveling printing surface, though, one of the very cool things that's common to a lot of Delta printers is that they have automatic bed leveling built in. So what will basically happen is during calibration, it will probe several points on the bed, figure out what the rotation of the print bed is, and then compensate on the fly in order to make sure that the first layer goes down very smoothly and adheres well. So that's great. Other features include a power loss resume function, which, you know, for printers that are kind of this massive in terms of their build volume is good, because typically the prints that you're going to be running on here are probably going to be a bit longer than something that you might run on smaller printers. So if the power ever does happen to go out, you're able to resume your print without, you know, losing basically 2 or 3 days worth of print time and wasting a bunch of filament. The caveat is that because it also has this lattice composite bed, though, if the power is off too long potentially, the bed can cool down and the print can release, but certainly for small power outages, this is something that could, you know, be very useful to you when you're 3D printing. The final feature that they advertise is that the printer has very quiet operations. So in addition to having silent stepper motor drivers, it also has stepper motor dampers built in. And hopefully what that allows you to do is that allows you to basically place it in an office or somewhere where you're working, and then have it print while you're working and not be disturbed. So that's kind of a general overview. What we're going to do next is we're going to set up this printer and kind of calibrate it. And then after we've set up the printer, we're going to go back, take a look at some of the kind of key technical aspects of how things like automatic bed leveling work, and how Delta-style printers themselves work. And then after that, got some other exciting things to share with you in terms of past and upcoming projects, as well as updates to the sticker squad sign that you may have noticed that I've been collecting stickers from various makers on Twitter, if you follow me on Twitter, and I kind of add them to my background and then like to post them up here. So we'll talk about all of the new additions that were added to them, or to that sign, since the last time we went live. So alrighty, with all that being said, let us now switch over to the secondary camera and take a look at what we're dealing with in terms of the printer. So here is the printer. I'm going to disable chat temporarily while I'm, or at least on-screen chat while I'm setting up this printer. The box is quite large, but overall it's very flat, which is exciting. So in terms of kind of shipping size, the printer is relatively small and compact for shipping. Alrighty, so opening this guy up. And this was taped before. I just opened the box just to verify that all the components were there previously. But opening this box up and moving this water out of the way, we see that everything is nicely wrapped in foam. One thing that I've actually never seen before is that there's a piece of wood over the foam, which is actually kind of nice and might be repurposed for use in my laser cutter, which is awesome. And then once we open up the box, we find that everything is beautifully shrink wrapped to make sure that none of the components go anywhere during shipping. I think the best way to open this is probably just to, I guess, tear into this box, because it looks like it's just a saran wrap layer. So what I'll do is I'll just tear this open right here. All right, and here we go in terms of several of the components. So first off, I think what I'll do is similar to what I did last time. I will put this box on the floor, and then I'll just pull out items kind of as I take them out of the box, just to show you guys what's in the printer package. But first up, coming out of here, we have an instruction manual right here, as well as your standard box of tools. So this box of tools includes Allen keys, a pair of snips, looks like a bunch of different screws and thumb screws. Looks like looks like they do use a couple different types of screws here. So we see a bunch of button head M4 screws, as well as some M3s. So that's something to be aware of. We get a nice little screwdriver, a nice little wrench, and then we also get this really beefy, almost Allen key type hex wrench. So going to be interested to see what we're going to end up using that for. So we'll take a look at that in a minute. All right. So moving this out of the way temporarily. Next up, we have our power cord and USB cable, as well as some replacement hot end parts, it looks like. So here we have our SD card reader, and replacement nozzle. Here we have some zip ties and a temperature sensor, as well as a inspection certificate of approval from FLSUN. We have what looks to be some extra limit switches. This looks to be a spare thermistor. We also have some tube grease, probably to keep the bushings lubricated for the linear rails when you move the printer up and down. And then we also have, it looks like, a completely replacement spare heat break, which is cool. So I don't know if these are actually spare or if that's something that we're going to have to assemble ourselves, but I guess we'll find out in a couple minutes here. So one other thing I should mention is, in case you are interested in picking up your own QQ-S, there are, what you can see right now on screen is there is an affiliate link through Gearbest, as well as a coupon code scrolling at the bottom of the screen. At the time of making this video, the printer retails for $379. And what you'll also see is that if you enter that coupon code there, that's scrolling on the bottom of the screen, which is also in the video description at checkout, you will get $10 off your order, so you can pick this printer up for $369. Okay, next up in the bag, or in the box, we have, our classic 3D printing scraping tool, which if you own an FDM printer, you're probably intimately familiar with. I feel like, I don't know, someone should put that on a t-shirt or something, given how ubiquitous it is with every FDM printer. Maybe that's a merch idea. We'll see. Let's see, we have another power cable. Oh, okay, so this is interesting. So it looks like there's actually only one variant of the FLSUN QQ that ships globally, but they do include both a European plug and a US plug. And usually with 3D printers, the power supply in there can be switched between different input voltages. So that's cool. That's a nice way to kind of package everything up and keep everything consistent. All right, and now we're moving into the big parts. So first off, we have, let's see, what is the best way to get this out of the box? We have what looks to be the triangular top of the printer, also marked with an FLSUN sticker. That's pretty cool. I think the logo for FLSUN looks a little bit like an alien, which is sweet. A little 3D printing alien. And let's see. Next up, we have the base, probably. Actually, next up, I think what I'll do is I'll take out all of this foam here. Here we go. And this is essentially everything that's left in the inside of the box. So inside we have, our Titan style extruder, which I forgot to mention during the intro. The Titan style basically is a geared extruder that allows you to apply a bit more torque to your filaments and print things like flexibles and other exotic materials with a Bowden style extruder, which is cool. We also have the bed leveling sensor here, which is used to basically probe the bed height. And then let's see. Some more instruction manuals, or some more instructions about how to use automatic bed leveling. And of course, here we go, the big piece of this package, the base with integrated electronics and okay. And what I'm going to do at this point is probably move the foam back off, because this is probably the piece that we'll start with here. There we go. Hot end spool, or I'm sorry, spool holder hardware that goes on the top of the printer. I'll move this off to the side. And then finally, on the side of the package, we have the kind of outer frame supports, as well as all of the linear rods, which there is a lot of. And just judging by the length of these rods, it looks like this printer, once set up, is going to be extremely tall, which is cool. And actually, that's another artifact of the Delta-style printer setup. Because of the geometry of the printer, usually to get a build area of a certain size, that usually dictates also the build height. But the effect of that is that in order to get that geometry to work, you really need a printer that's significantly taller, for example, than a Cartesian printer. One upside to these Delta printers, though, is that unlike Cartesian printers, the base is stationary. So, in case you are working kind of in a makerspace, or you have some desk space and you're a little bit space constrained, once you make room for that printer on your desk, you never have to worry about the bed kind of printing out or moving outside of that initial kind of envelope that you've cleared out on your desk and knocking anything over. So another kind of neat advantage about Delta style printers. Alrighty, so now that we have all of the parts out, let's quickly check back in with everybody, see if anything else is new in the chat. Right now it looks like there are no further questions, so I guess the next thing to do is to get started with setting up this printer. All right, so overall here, this is a really nice instruction manual. On page 3, it says, caution, the printer default selection voltage is 220 volts. If you need to use 110 volts, please change this switch before using it. It also says the assembly and user manual, software, and other files are also on the SD card of the printer, so that's good in case you were to ever accidentally misplace this book, which is cool. Before automatic leveling, prepare the leveling sensor and use an A4 sheet of paper, clean the nozzle and insert the level. After the auto leveling, remove the sensor and adjust the Z0 offset, and then we get started. All right, so here we go. Step 1, per their instructions, is let's adjust the voltage of the printer from 220 to 110 after taking a drink of coffee, which I'm sure Brian can appreciate based on the coffee-themed shirts that we often see him wearing in his YouTube videos. Okay. So let's see. So step one, adjusting the voltage. Here is the actual print gantry assembly. So looking at this really quickly now, where I said I wasn't sure whether or not we needed to assemble the hot end, there is actually already one in here. So it looks like the hot end that they did send you with the printer and the extra bag is just a spare one. So that's super nice. Okay, I think the first thing that I'll do, and this is always tough when there is kind of some interconnected components with cabling, the question is always, should I remove the zip ties first and potentially make a mess, but then have more space to work with, or should I kind of keep it all together with the zip ties and, you know, kind of struggle size-wise. Okay, so here we go. On the back of the printer, there's a notice here. It says the default input voltage of the power supply is 220. If the local voltage is 110, please oh, okay. So what we will have to do here is looking inside. The power supply actually sits in the base. So I think the first thing that we're going to have to do here is we are going to have to take this base off and adjust or take this cover off the base and then adjust the voltage. So for that, what I'm going to use instead of the included tools is my handy dandy 45-in-1 screwdriver set. And it looks like here, these are just, or this bottom cover is just attached with some M3 screws. Or I'm sorry, I guess these are M4. And here, taking this guy off. So screw 3. Screw 4. Screw 5. And screw 6. So that came off. That was loosened relatively easily, so that is cool. Looking now, it says, yep, so here is the power supply. I'm actually going to walk around here really quickly and just adjust the camera angle so you guys can see. And then while we're in here, we might as well take a look at what else is happening electronic-wise with this printer. So, moving you guys down on my tripod here. So that's one of the upgrades actually that I made to my studio compared to last live stream. If you noticed, last live stream I used a bunch of Logitech C920 webcams, which are kind of the standard streamer webcam. Since then, I've picked up some Sony Alpha A6000 cameras. They're mirrorless, essentially still photo cameras, but because of their age, they can be picked up kind of for a really nice price used on eBay. And one of the advantages of that is you can put a proper camera lens on it, and then you can do things like zoom in and out to get a better shot of what you're working with. So that makes live streaming a bit more fun and a bit more dynamic because I can show you guys exactly what is happening inside. Okay, so here is the voltage switch. If you can see it, right there you'll see it is currently set on 230. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in here and just switch this over, okay? And while we're here, let's take a look at what's going on in this printer base. So, taking a peek and switching to handheld camera mode, here is the control board, the main board, the control board for the printer. I'm going to shine some light on this here. And what we're looking at is the stepper drivers look to be the BT7221As. The controller that we have in here is an STM32F103. So that's a 32-bit microcontroller. And actually that's kind of important note is that because of the additional math that you need to do to calculate the way the printhead needs to move in these style printers, what actually ends up happening is you end up having to take a lot of square roots, and that's why you'll see a lot of Delta-style printers have 32-bit microcontrollers instead of 8-bit microcontrollers, which you commonly find in Cartesian printers, just because it gives you a little bit more bandwidth to do a little bit more complicated math, like calculating square roots. Also interesting here is we have an ESP12S. So I wonder if there's some kind of Wi-Fi support on this printer. I don't know if that's enabled or disabled by default, but certainly that's an interesting thing to take a look at. And then of course we also have our SD slot like we usually do, and the standard USB. And then inside we have our 3-stepper motor mounts, and these look to be 3D printed. So that's interesting. Very cool. All right, neat, neat, neat. Cool. All right, so with that done, let me put you guys back onto the tripod and let us reattach this base. But certainly that's an important thing to note. If this is your first printer that you're setting up, definitely be sure to read the warning labels and make sure to switch over to the correct voltage, because not only do you not want to let the magic smoke out the first time you turn on your printer, and then have to send it back. But also, I imagine that once this printer is assembled, given how tall this printer looks to be, you probably are going to have a hard time flipping everything over and accessing the electronics in the base once the printer is fully put together. So, all right. Very cool. So now let us put these screws back in the way we were. Yeah, so I hope everyone's Saturday is going well. I'm assuming that, like me, many of you will probably be watching the SpaceX launch later on this afternoon. Certainly is a historic day for sure, just because, like I said, this is the first time that NASA is ever going to use a commercial rocket to send astronauts into space. The astronauts will be traveling for 19 hours and rendezvousing with the International Space Station. If you remember, originally the launch was supposed to happen last Wednesday, but because of Florida weather, they had to scrub the launch because of rain and possible wind. So hopefully they'll have a safe launch today, and we're going to witness history, which every time there's a NASA launch, of course, it's always exciting. But another thing that makes this launch special is that we haven't actually had a launch from the US since 2011 with the last shuttle mission. So, you know, for many people, I guess this might be the first launch, I guess, that they'll really ever see, depending on how old you are or kind of when you were born. So certainly that's super exciting, and I'm looking forward to that. Okay, next one. Step 2, place the bottom shell and insert the optical access through the slider shaft seat bottom. Okay, so at this point, I think what we're going to do first is I'm going to remove all this foam here, because it looks like now it's time to actually put everything together. Overall, I have to say, very impressed with the packaging of this printer. Everything is really securely packaged, and you know, really well thought out. One other thing I have to say is that when I ordered this printer from Gearbest, or when they shipped this printer from Gearbest, the printer came extremely quickly. So I think from my order to when it was actually in my P.O. box where I get my packages delivered for Super Make Something, it took a total of 5 days, which is incredibly fast. So that's always good to see, because I know sometimes in the past when you ordered from kind of overseas vendors, oftentimes packages could take a while to get here, but this one arrived at lightning speed, which was cool. Okay. Make sure we're all, or make sure we're not tangled here, I will say. So just like this. We also want to make sure that we don't install this upside down. Okay. And then the way I assume this needs to be set up is that on the front of the printer, on the front of the printhead here, there's the FLSUN logo, and both on the heated build plate as well as on the front of the unit, there is, or on the touch screen, I'm assuming that these two logos have to line up. So shouldn't really matter, I don't think, because it is symmetric, but I guess for visual appearances, you know, want to make sure that we do that. So, okay. So insert the optical axis through the slider to shaft seat bottom. Okay. So we're going to now unwrap this slider here, or these shafts here. I'm going to open these up. Really, I think what we want here is maybe some scissors, but I want to kind of try to keep these together until I need them, so they're not strewn all over the room. So I'll leave them taped together and just kind of pull them out as I need it. And in total, there are six rods. So at this point too, I think we will have to remove the twisty ties here. Again, I have to say, in terms of packaging and cable management during shipping, this is really, really nice. Also, I mean, looking at this, right, compared to Cartesian printers, the amount of hardware involved with these ball joints and things like that is probably a little bit more complicated on Delta printers than they are in Cartesian printers. So it's nice to see that FLSUN kind of ships this unit mostly pre-assembled, and really all we have to do is, you know, attach some rods in here to make sure that, you know, we set everything up. But overall, it looks like they take care of most of the difficult parts of this printer build for you, which is cool. Okay, so the way this goes is there is a pulley up top right here, and I imagine that attaches to the top plate. So what I will do, I'm gonna put this guy in here, and now we actually get an appreciation for the height of this printer here. So it's quite tall. Put that bushing in. One note is that they did say to make sure that the belt that you have attached to each of these sliders, or each of these slider carriages, goes through the middle of these two rods. So you want to make sure that you don't accidentally like poke this out the side or anything like that. It's an important note, because then you could end up jamming the printer, which would be bad. Let me readjust also the camera angle here a little bit, just so you guys can see me putting one of these in. Gonna zoom in here as we slide the guide rails into the slot here. So let's see, best way to film this. So like this. That slider goes in that base, or that rail goes through the slider into the base, I should say. And same again with the other side, again making sure that this belt here will pass right through the middle. Just like that. Slide this guy in here. Okay, all right, we are getting somewhere. And the final two rails going into this base. The kinematics of this printer, and Delta-style printers in general, I think are always really cool. It's almost like a little Stewart platform that you see kind of for some robot applications or also for pick-and-place machines. It's a very similar mechanism, so it's kind of fun to have this really futuristic style printer in your makerspace. Let's see, and the first thing I want to do, I think, is I want to guide through. Looks like we may have something a little bit twisted here in one of the belts. What's going on here? Here we go. Ah, okay, just looped over itself. I think as I was unwrapping everything. There we go. Okay. Guide this guy in just like that. And then put in the last slider just like that. Come on, you. In you go. There we go. All right, so that is seated correctly. Oh yeah, and now we see just how tall, I'm gonna back up here a little bit, just how tall this printer is. Wow, that is exciting. Definitely a big printer. Kind of put myself next to it for comparison. That is quite big. So definitely, before beginning to assemble, you'll definitely want to make sure that you set the voltage correctly, just because that'll be very difficult to adjust after the fact, probably once this massive printer is together. Now, one thing that I do see, joke might be on me a little bit here. I gotta play around with it a bit to get this slider. I want to make the printhead lower than the guide rails. So there we go. Okay, I'm glad I didn't have to take the rails out again. That's nice. Okay, cool. So it looks like we are good to go. Alrighty, next step. Step 3, install the top shell. Logo and touchscreen should face in the same direction. Excellent. That is something that we made sure to do, and that we will also make sure to do with the top shell. Excuse me. And, oh, okay, this is really cool too. Inside here, what you'll see is they already also have these pre-mounted mounting blocks for the other end of the rails attached here. So that's nice. Again, some more cable management, which is also great. Now what we're going to do first here is we're going to pop the top on this guy. One, two, three, four, and what have we here? Oh, 5, 6. Okay, these are a little tougher to get in. Now there is a set screw for each of these mounting blocks. So I wonder if maybe we have to loosen those a bit just to make sure that the shafts slide in there. No, there we go. Okay, there we go. It's just misaligned. Whoop! So close, so close. It just popped back out. There we go. 1, 2. You on there? You're on there? Okay, this guy on this side has a tendency to like to pop out. Now, why is that? So you stay on there. This guy is in there for sure. It's like the other shafts aren't quite seating into the hole. Let me loosen these set screws a little bit here. No, actually, give you guys another close-up just to show you what I mean. So inside here, what you can see is you have these mounting blocks, and then each of these shafts will be held in place by tightening these set screws here and here. So what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to loosen these guys a little bit just to make sure that that's maybe not the reason why they're not bottoming out. And then after we seat the top correctly, we will then retighten those set screws. Okay. Whoop, and zoom out. Yeah, I really like this with the non-webcam, with the proper camera mount. It's nice and mobile. You can zoom in and out fairly easily, which is good to really give you guys some detail about what's going on there. One disadvantage, I guess, for that is you do need to have an external capture card in order to actually feed the video into your computer. But those are kind of readily available online at various retailers. Of course, less so now, I guess, with the COVID pandemic, because a lot of people are teleworking. So I've noticed a lot of capture cards kind of have a lot of markup on them recently, but hopefully once things start to normalize again a little bit, those prices will come back down. But shooting with this mirrorless setup is actually really nice too, because this is the same camera setup that I use to shoot all of my episodes, and also to take most of my other pictures that I use for taking thumbnails and for posting on social media. So kind of getting a camera like this is a really nice and versatile setup that if you're a content creator or make YouTube videos, I think you can get a lot of mileage out of kind of a single camera and use it for multiple things that you need to make for your stream. So, okay, so now I'm tightening these set screws here. Boom. All right, they are tightened. Next up, it says align, okay, upper shell complete. Yes. Okay, untie the belt and straighten it to make sure that they are parallel. Insert the metal pulleys into the slot. Okay, so what I noticed here is while I was assembling, unfortunately one of the sliders moved, but that's okay. That can easily be recentered, especially now since everything is together. And I'll feed. Oh no! I didn't center this guy. He's outside of the... Oh no! Okay, we're gonna have to... Are we gonna have to take this whole thing apart? No! Oh man, bummer! Alright, I'll show you guys what happened here. So, the way this is supposed to look is that this belt is supposed to come cleanly through the middle, like so. So that's what it should look like. Unfortunately, on this side, sad trombone, what you can see here is that this timing belt is wrapped around that shaft, and unfortunately there's really no good way to get it out without taking everything off. One thing maybe that would be cool, I guess, having done this now, is if there would be a way to open this up a bit, but then you'd also have alignment problems and you couldn't kind of bottom it out. So okay, yeah, I get why they made the design choice they made. Unfortunately, we're gonna have to chalk that one up to user error during assembly and not paying close enough attention. So it looks like we're gonna have to take that guy out. Okay, the other side is also good, so that's good. At least these two sides are fine. So it's only this one guy that we have to fix. Okay, not a problem. Let's undo these again. That's why we live stream, right? I make these mistakes so you don't have to. Ah, man. Not cool. Yeah, looking outside right now, it does look a little bit cloudy. But then again, I'm in Cleveland, I'm not in Florida, so hopefully the weather down there is a little bit nicer. Because, man, I would really love to watch a rocket launch today. All right. Let's see. All right. Good news is it's a relatively easy fix. We just have to do that. Lift up that shaft a little bit. Move the pulley over and reseat it, so at least there's no possibility of messing up the two that we did correctly while we fix the ones that we did incorrectly. So that's good. Also using the royal we there, since, you know, we're all in this live stream together, so we made the mistake. That's how we'll say it. No, it was me. It was my fault. Okay, so that guy's in, that guy's in. Relatively simple fix and painless fix. Again, just have to make sure that we seat all these guys correctly. How's that looking? Just to make sure before I tighten things down too much. Again, to verify that nothing is twisted or anything like that. Nope, okay, good. This one looks good. This one looks good. And that one also looks good. Okay, cool. So we just have to get these guys back on. Also, if you guys see me do something, kind of looking at the chat when we started the stream, it seemed like a lot of people in here actually already have some familiarity with this printer and maybe own one themselves already. So in case that is you and you see me doing something incorrectly during the setup process, do please feel free to chime in, let me know, just because that way, you know, we can make sure that we get this guy set up and printing. Whoopsies. Dropped my bit out of my screwdriver. All right, now again, tightening these set screws. Gonna tighten these at the bottom here also, just to make sure that nothing is going anywhere. Okay. One, two, three, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 'Did this one already, 3, 4, 5, and 6. But that being said, this top looks a little bit crooked to me. I think this side here might not be all the way in yet. So let's just make sure. One of the sides was not in all the way. It looks like. Just triple checking to make sure that everything is seated correctly. Dave Wilson in the chat asks, notice the controller is an FLSUN board. His Gen 1 has a Mark S Robin Mini. Do you know what firmware is on this board? I do not, but certainly we can definitely check that once we turn this machine on. If you want to guide me through how to do that, I'd be happy to take a peek and I can give you some info. yeah, when we get there, please remind me to double check that, just so that I can take a look at that for you. One thing I think I did hear about this printer is I do believe they use a proprietary firmware on these machines. But I know there's also some articles online that I found while researching this unit about being able to reflash the firmware, I think. So, but yeah, please do, once we get there, please do remind me, and we will definitely check that out. Okay, so that final click you just heard means that everything is finally mounted, everything is level, everything is great. So we're going to retighten these guys. Make sure, again, now that they are in there correctly, they don't go anywhere. Okay, 1, 2. 3, 4. Build quality, I have to say, of this is really nice. Everything is aluminum or injection molded plastic, except like we saw in the base, the stepper motor mounts in the base, but that's, you know, that's totally acceptable. And I think once we get these side covers on this printer, this is going to look really nice and professional and really high quality. So that's awesome. All right. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So yeah, one thing I might recommend is that even though they do give you Allen keys, to pick up a screwdriver like this potentially. So the nice thing about this is not only does it have interchangeable heads, but the thing that makes it really nice is that there's a bearing in the base, so you can really easily just twist your screwdriver, and kind of given the constraints potentially with the top cover on, using something where the base rotates and you don't have to go and reseat your Allen key every time you have a half turn in your screw tightening, that's definitely something I recommend. So I'll leave a link to this screwdriver set in the video description below. It's basically what I use for all of my builds, both at work and at home. And it's relatively cheap. I think it's like 10 bucks. So definitely consider picking that up if that's something that you're interested in. Okay. So next step. Insert the metal pulley into, untie the belt and straighten it to make sure they are parallel. You did that. Insert the metal pulley into the slot. Aha. Let me check to see, before I give you guys a close-up view here and tell you something wrong, that this is what they mean. And then it says make the screw head and nut tight and make sure they are on the same height. Okay, cool. Very good. So this is now where the thumb screws come in that we got in this screw package. So, excuse me. Taking this guy out. And it says here. So giving you guys a quick peek. So this printer came with these 3 thumb screw looking things right here, which I'd love to show you if we can get this in focus. Okay, and I'm going to take this guy out, and what you'll see on the top of this printer here is you'll see a bunch of these holes, and essentially what we're going to do is we're going to put the thumb screw on top here through these holes, and actually I guess they're technically thumb nuts, not thumb screws, if there is such a thing. And what those are for is basically for this pulley, you have this threaded end here, and you're going to put that through this hole at the top, like so. Come on. Like so. And then what you're going to do is you're going to put the thumb nut on top of that to make sure that it's tight, and then you can also use that to adjust the tension of the belts. So we're going to have to do that for all 3 of these pulleys. So the first one, here we go. We'll just tighten that in there. It's actually really quick and easy, which is awesome. Okay, twist, twist, twist. Make sure that we are tight. And I can tell as I'm turning this, the belt tension here is adjusting. So that's a good sign. So that's how you adjust the belt tension on this printer for the axis. Okay, number 2. During this step, you also want to make sure that the belt slides over the pulley and that you don't miss it on the side, because you definitely don't want to crimp the belt in any way. Okay, that guy's on there. And then the third one is here. And we'll tighten that also. All right, and it is starting to look like an assembled printer. Excellent. All right. Very cool. Ta-da! Time for step 5. Connect the limit switch and tighten extruder. Here we go. All right, so we are going to remove these cable ties from the end stop. So the way this machine seems to zero out is the limit switches for the printer are actually located on the top here, or in the top plate. And so there's where the limit switch is right there. You can see that with a little red knob. So probably what happens is as this machine zeroes, it'll probably make the printhead travel all the way up, independently zero out all of those limit switch or all of these different rail sliders. And then after that, it'll probably go back down to the print bed and then do the auto bed leveling. So something to look out for to see if that's what actually happens once we get into it. Okay, there we go. All right, so we are going to connect these limit switches, making sure that the red matches up with the red and the black matches up with the black. Red, red, 1. And 2. All right, so about an hour into this live stream. Thank you again so much for tuning in. I really appreciate it. Definitely always exciting to be able to share this 3D printing hobby with other enthusiasts. So thank you very much for tuning in and watching this live stream. Let's see. We're now going to undo this guy. Again, making sure the red cable matches up with the red one, the black one with the black one. Okay, so that is in. Next step, install the Titan extruder. And there's literally, the only instructions are install the Titan extruder. So, okay. Assuming that that's going to be relatively straightforward, how would this go? Ah, okay, so I guess before showing you guys, let me verify this is correct. I feel like we're missing a mounting bracket, maybe. Brian, are we experiencing turbulence? Yes. We're going shaky cam handheld blog style. I'm basically Casey Neistat at this point, right? Let's see. So the only step they have here is it says install the Titan extruder. I guess let me twist this around and show you guys what we're working with here. So, all right, taking a look at this. We're going to move this closer together, move it up, and I'm going to hope that my tripod is tall enough. Oh yeah, okay, perfect. So here we see a slot that the Titan extruder is supposed to go into. Because I mean that's where the cutout is, so that makes sense. Looking at the extruder itself, is we have this mounting bracket here, which also makes sense. And the way, like, I feel that it's supposed to slide in here like this, but the issue is that if I turn this bracket doesn't reach all the way to the holes because this gear is in the way. And it doesn't really matter whichever way we turn it, because that gear is, one, the bracket wouldn't line up, but two, that gear is always going to be in the way. And then we also have the fitting, or the coupler, where the Bowden tube goes into. I'm assuming that has to actually go externally based on the photos. So how does that fit is my question. Or is the Titan extruder actually internal? Brian says, yeah, he says, the instructions were written by someone who installs Titan extruders all day long and just assumed everyone knows how to do it. Apparently that's true. Yeah, this is my first Titan extruder, so I unfortunately don't have much experience with this. Let's see, Dave Wilson seems to own one, who's in the chat, or who was watching previously. So if Dave is still here, if he's got some advice, that would be appreciated. He seems to be the resident expert for things Titan extruder. Okay, you know what? Here's what we're going to do. Maybe it doesn't actually mount externally. I had just assumed that because it looks cool and you want to see maybe the gearing, maybe because I'm a mechanical engineer background, I assume everybody wants to see the gears, of course, that you would mount this Titan extruder externally, but maybe it looks like you just mount it internally, which is kind of a bummer, because then you don't get to see the gears of the Titan extruder, which is what makes the gears cool. But oh well, I guess to each his own. That being said, if you do mount it internally, the extruder is within the print envelope, so that probably makes sense that you'd want to do that. So yep, Dave Wilson just confirmed it. You put it in from the underside. All right, fair enough. Fair enough. We'll hide the gears. in one of my upcoming builds, actually, speaking of gearing, I'm gonna have some gears, and I will make sure that they are shown off for the world to see. So, but be sure to be on the lookout for that. Okay. So if we do install this from the underside, that's definitely more straightforward. Alrighty. So let's do that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to drop that in here. And I'm also going to, again, use my screwdriver. I guess just from the weight, I'm assuming that we want to use M4 screws. And that looks to be correct. All right. Cool. 1. And 2. One of the screws here is stuck. I seem to have missed the hole where that threads into. It's okay. Just move it back out, make sure things are aligned the right way. I might have to get a footstool. I don't think I'm tall enough. This printer is super tall, but that's awesome. There we go. There we go. Awesome. That is in. Tighten that up. Okay, perfect. All right, thank you, Brian and Dave, for your help in the chat while getting this installed. Okay, install the Titan extruder. Done. Next, connect the cable bus. Okay, ooh, this is exciting. So I'll move you guys down a little bit. All of the electronics, as we saw when we started the live stream, sit down in the base, and all of the limit switches and the extruder stepper motors are actually located on the top of the machine. So what they do is they give you this really awesome, really heavy-duty braided cable sleeve wiring bus, which is super cool. And it looks like the way you basically connect this is you take this cable here and you put it through the top of the machine, and then you have the other end of the wiring bus on the printer here, and you feed that through the bottom. And that's actually really clever, because what'll happen there is it'll make sure that you don't get any kind of cable jamming or anything like that, because that makes sure that that cable wiring harness is always above the center of the printhead with this printer. So very cool, very cool. So okay, what I'm going to do is I am going to, let's see, do this. I'll zoom you guys back out here so you can see what I'm doing. There's also 2 zip ties that I need to cut on this end of the wiring bus. So at this point, let me get the snips that they supplied snip in the printer package. Opening up there. Perfect. And then looks like this guy just goes right through the top. So moving you guys back. Also on this cable sleeve here on this wiring bus, they have a 3D printed stiffener bracket here just to make sure that you can eliminate cable strain. Very much like the colors that they chose. The yellow and black is a favorite of mine. So, all right. So here we go. So this guy goes in the top. Hi, Thierry joined. Hi, Thierry. Welcome to the live stream. Thanks for joining. All right. And now we're going to tighten this. And we are on there. Okay, excellent. Now we need to connect the extruder cable for the stepper motor through this little hole here. And in terms of cable management, this is really well thought out. I really like this printer. So everything, once mounted, has like a hole that it slides into, and everything is hidden really well. And I think, again, once we get these side panels on, this printer is going to look really nice and clean. And then final step here is we're going to take the PTFE tubing, slide that all the way in. Perfect. Okay. And the wiring harness is installed. Wow, this printer is starting to look really cool. All right, and now it's time to put on the side shell on the top and then put it on the bottom. So now it's time to install these side shell pieces right here. So let us do that now. So these slide first into the top per their instructions. Then afterwards, there is a recess in the base where these also slide into. So cool. And again, we're going to use the screws that came with the unit, as well as, I guess, these M4 screws. These look to be the correct ones. Okay. Or are these actually M3, I guess? Before I put that in there, let's double check. Nope. Okay, good. These are the correct ones. So more M4 screws. So they gave me some other types of screws, some smaller screws, some M3s, but it looks like for this assembly, basically everything is an M4 screw. So that's nice. There are some that are a different length, but so far it looks like at least I've always grabbed the right ones. So that's nice. By using one common type of screw, it's actually a lot nicer to assemble, just because, again, there's less of a chance that you grab the wrong screw during the wrong assembly step and then have to go hunting to replace that one screw that you placed incorrectly. So again, in terms of overall layout, design, and design philosophy, really impressed and liking this printer so far. And then soon we'll see the real stress test to when we 3D print a benchy. So that is coming up. Okay. Going to also attach this, and they basically recommended attaching all the top screws first before attaching the bottom. One thing I did notice here is I forgot to slide that housing into the base. So down below, what you'll see is basically everything slides into this base here, but I missed slotting that in. So that's one thing that I need to go back and fix right now. So what I'll do is I'll again quickly just remove these top screws, lift this into the slot just like that. Come on, you. Get in there. There we go. Okay. And then move you guys back up to here as I screw in these side panels. Okay. One. Next one. Rotate this guy around. Take another side panel. Slide this guy in. Again, this is really cool because, I mean, obviously the wiring is already really well done to make sure that nothing gets pinched while you're printing or leveling on this printer. But adding these side panels on, it really hides a lot of the wiring that is exposed that needs to be on the printer as kind of you move or you run things from the top and the bottom. So it's really nice. Again, nice design, nicely done, that everything is really well hidden and looks really clean. So I know, depending on how long you have been around in the 3D printing space, and actually, I think it was just RepRap's birthday a couple days ago. It's the original RepRap. And if you look at some of the really early 3D printers, I mean, there was wiring everywhere, and everything really looked like it was hacked together. And since then, I mean, you know, even though RepRap started the movement, I mean, printer designs have just gotten so clean and so professional looking that it's almost like, you know, completely different ball game in terms of what the printer quality was a couple of years back versus what it is now. So, all right, the second side panel is almost on. There. And this one. Okay. And now the final side panel for the printer. Slide that in just like that. Okay, that guy's tightened. Sorry guys, forgot to move you back up. There. Move around to this side. Be able to see a little bit better. Okay. The final two screws, and I think at that point, ladies and gentlemen, we are fully assembled. There. there. Ta-da! I think, ladies and gentlemen, we have a fully assembled printer. I spoke too soon, sorry. We actually need to still attach the spool holder to the top of the printer, but that's relatively minor, so let's go do that real quick. I know, I apologize, I got your hopes up. Sorry, Brian. Brian says, hooray, success. Now I feel like I'm a liar. Sorry, I apologize. But it's okay, we're basically done. We're basically done. Two more screws. Coming up next, the Benchy. Yes, Brian, the Benchy is next. I'm so excited. It's gonna be cool. So, I mean, that's another cool thing. Back in the day, when 3D printers were new, it was so difficult to know, like, whether or not you had configured everything correctly, just because there was really no kind of common benchmark or standardization. And now, with this Benchy and just with everyone having access to a 3D printer, I mean, it's so easy to see not only kind of how your printer performs compared to other printers through the standard Benchy test bench or test mark, but also how other people that own this printer kind of have their printer set up and how well their printers are printing. So it's a really good way to do some quality control on your own build, just to make sure that everything is set up correctly and things like that. The other nice thing with printers these days is that slicers like Cura, I believe, crowdsource settings from other printers. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to configure this printer within Cura, and we're just to make sure that we only have to use like one slicing program for multiple printers. But the nice thing is that for a lot of these printers, especially like right after they get released, like these profiles become available within Cura relatively soon, is that the default settings that you have for printers within Cura are usually pretty good. So now it definitely eliminates a lot of the kind of playing that you need to do with your own printer settings and debugging and testing. A lot of times now, when you just set up a printer, you're just essentially ready to go and can just start using it. So, okay, excellent, excellent, excellent. So I think now we are all set up. Brian, time to get excited again. And at this point, we are completely assembled. Yay! Excellent. All right, so I'm gonna pull back here a little bit, and we can see the fully assembled 3D printer. Awesome. Okay, now I'm going to clean up my desk just a little, move everything off to the side. And then it says the next step in here is in getting ready to auto level. So it is time to plug in the machine and see what happens. So what I'm going to do again, I'm just going to move everything off to the side here a little bit. Put that there. Don't think I need my screwdriver set anymore, which is good. Now let me take out the bed leveling probe here. But before we do that, let's grab the correct power cable, plug it in, and let's see what happens. Okay. So the power cable in the printer goes right in the back, like that. I will then take this end and I will insert it into the base here, just like that. And the power switch is back here. Gonna move this guy over. Let me get this other bag of screws out of the way here. Just again, so we're a little bit cleaner as we start printing. I'm gonna rotate the printer so it faces the camera. And moment of truth. Here we go. 3, 2, 1. It's on! All right, I hear beeping. Fantastic. So now it is time to connect the auto level sensor. But before we do that, let's maybe get a quick zoom in here just to see what we're working with. So I'm gonna move you guys down again. Just a little bit. And here we have our touchscreen menu. First things first, of course, we got to take off this protective cover. Maybe. Ah, here we go. Just get it started. Here we go. Awesome. And then actually, too, I noticed here that there's also a plastic covering on this print bed. So I guess first thing that we should do, let's see if we can see what the firmware is. Okay, so going back to Dave Wilson's question, he wanted to know what kind of firmware was on the printer. It looks like we are running the MKS Robin Mini firmware, and it looks like it's version 2.0.7. And again, it says Wi-Fi. It does look like this printer has Wi-Fi. So that's pretty cool. That's really, really cool. All right, we're gonna go back up for a minute. Back, and what we're going to do is, I think under Tools, I essentially want to move the printhead up a little bit first, just so that I can take the plastic off the print bed. Overall, this nice colored touchscreen, super responsive. It is not letting me move right now. I wonder why. I think maybe I have to preheat the bed before the motors move. That could be. Okay, well, let's do this first maybe. What we'll do is we'll manually move the print head up, or the carriages up, just like this for now. We're gonna figure that out in a minute while we follow instructions. But first, I'm going to take this plastic and peel it off. Alrighty. Very cool. Very cool, very cool. So now, next step, it says install the auto leveling sensor. And the way it looks like we're going to do that is there is a wire over here that we can connect this external auto leveling sensor 2, and then it says use the connect via magnet. So I wonder where the magnet is for this. Let's see. This one? Let's see what the manual says here. Okay. Oh, there should be a magnet. I see, the magnet is on this far side here. So actually what I'll do is I'm going to move this guy around, just like so. And then attach it, clip, just like that. Okay. And it looks like now we are leveled. So very cool. Quick sip of coffee. Alrighty. And now it says go to Tools, Auto Level, click Level. So let us do that. This is a really pretty looking printer. Okay, so Tools, Auto Level, Auto Level. Please plug in the leveling switch module before auto level. Confirm. Oh man, and we have motion. Here we go. The limit switches work. That's awesome too. And now we're going to be traveling down the print bed here. And at this point, I think it will start to probe the bed. Yep. So what it's doing now is it's traveling across multiple points on the print bed to initiate auto leveling. And each time it does, you can hear this really satisfying click. Click. So it probed the 3 points, is traveling back up. And now it's traveling back down again. The auto leveling icon is still blinking in the print bed, so I don't think it's quite done yet. One. Two. Three. Traveling back up. And traveling back down. So I heard that this is a 25-point auto bed leveling, so maybe it'll do this a couple more times. So we'll let that finish. While that's going on, let me quickly take a look at the manual, see maybe there's another next step coming here. So it is probing multiple points now across the print bed to okay. So reading ahead here while this leveling is continuing, what I'm already going to do is I'm going to grab a sheet of paper, because after this leveling, what we'll want to do is we'll want to adjust the Z offset just to make sure that that is also that the print nozzle is correctly spaced from the print bed. So right now it's just basically trying to figure out where the printing plane is, and then afterwards, once it figures that out, it is still needs to be, the height of the print nozzle needs to be adjusted just a little bit. So So it does look like it's doing a 25-point bed leveling. At this point, I unfortunately have not been counting, but it was a lot, so probably around 25 total maybe, as advertised. All right, perfect. Next step, it says remove the magnetic printhead. So that's an interesting item here compared to another 3D printer that you might have seen me use on the channel in the past. Back in the past, I used the Monoprice MP Mini Delta, and the way that auto leveling worked there is it had switches in the base, but the nice thing about that was everything was integrated into one. Here it looks like with this printer, it's got this external leveling, essentially attachment, which attaches magnetically, which is cool, but then that's something that you'll need to keep track of with the rest of your printer tools just to make sure you don't lose it in case you do ever need to re-level your print bed. So just something to keep in mind to make sure to keep that in a safe place so you don't lose it. All right. After auto leveling, put an A4 paper and adjust the Z0 position. So what we're going to do now is, I think, yep, and the menu is blinking, so that's really cool actually too with this printer. Down below here in the menu, they basically walk you through it. So next it says move Z0. So please remove the leveling switch module before removing the M0. Now we'll see the printhead come back down. So right now it's moving back to the Z equals 0 position. And what we see is, if we really get up close and personal, is in between here, the printing nozzle is a bit high. So what we're going to do is we're going to use the adjust Z offset menu option here to basically increment or decrement the Z position for the printhead however much it needs to be. And afterwards, we're going to save that offset. And at that point, the printer should be ready to go. So I'm going to decrease the 0 position just a little bit at a time, continuing to move the paper back and forth until we feel some resistance. So that's not quite enough. That's about right. That's too much. So that's about the offset that we want. And then we're going to hit save. It's now set the Z offset position, and I think we are finally ready to start printing. Okay, excellent. Ladies and gentlemen, we have one fully set up FLSUN QQ-S. So now it's time for setting up Cura and then getting started in printing the Benchy. Okay. And to do that, what I will do first is I will switch over to desktop capture mode. Hello again. Welcome to desktop capture mode. And let us now start by configuring Cura. One thing I will do before we configure Cura is I need to grab the SD card that came with the printer, just because that's what we're going to use to print. And I know also they did include a small roll of white PLA, so that's what we're going to be test printing the Benchy with. Okay. First things first, though, we're going to insert the SD card into my computer. Like many printers today, this is a micro SD card. And I just conveniently happen to have a micro SD card slot in my laptop. On the SD card itself, we see that it comes with a couple things. So the first folder is called Assemble and Use Video. And this is really nice, actually. So this is a walkthrough video of how to assemble your printer. So that's cool. That's super useful. So there's also instructions for Wi-Fi. So it looks like these videos also cover things potentially that aren't covered in the manual. And because everything is, again, with the SD card, that's usually with the printer anyway, if you misplace the book, you know, that's not going to be a problem. So perfect. It's really nice to see that they include these setup videos on the SD card. A previous printer that I reviewed, the KeyDTech X Pro, also had that. So I wonder if that's maybe a new thing that companies are doing. But it's certainly nice to see that you have these instructional videos included in the SD card. So that's super nice. All right. What else is on here? So we have, of course, a couple different STL files. And then it says QQ-S spare part model. So, oh, look at that. So limit switch brackets, motor belt covers, all those things. They actually give you the STL file that in case something should break on the printer, you can print your own replacement parts without needing service. So that's really clever. That's really smart. I like that a lot. Software, we have both firmware here. So again, it looks like we are using the Robin Mini firmware, and there's also something here called Wi-Fi manual. So that's not something that we're going to check out in the live stream today, but it does look like this printer does have integrated Wi-Fi, so that's fantastic. And besides that, we have some PDFs, which are instruction manuals and 3D printing processes, as well as some test G-code files. So very cool. But we aren't going to use any of those. Instead, what we're going to do is we are going to open up Cura and then use it to slice this 3D Benchy that I've downloaded previously from Thingiverse during this live stream. So just waiting Cura to boot up. So this is the latest one that I installed yesterday right before this live stream. At the point of making this video, that version is 4.6.1. And I do know that this version already includes a preset for the FLSUN QQ-S. So that's cool. Just waiting for Cura to load here. I have to say, I feel bad for my laptop. There's a lot of things going on in this laptop right now. So I'm doing both streaming through OBS, streaming through Wi-Fi, which probably isn't recommended, but I unfortunately don't have an Ethernet cable in my office where I'm streaming from. Plus it's running Cura, plus it's running some background music through Spotify, and it's also doing display capture and rendering and dumping all that to YouTube. So thank you for this laptop manufacturer for making a laptop that can handle this. To my laptop, I'd really like to apologize just for overtaxing it, but so far it seems to be doing well, so that's good. All right, so Cura is booting. It is almost ready, and this is what Cura looks like. Okay, perfect. So to set up Cura, we're going to click on this menu option right here, and I will actually get rid of this chat for now, just so we can see a little bit better. And there's an option here that says to add printer. And then we're going to add a non-network printer, and we're going to scroll all the way down to FLSUN. And here we see we already have a preset for the FLSUN QQ-S. We're going to go to Add. It's going to add that printer into Cura. And here we see the circular bed, and that's it. So that was the whole setup and didn't take long at all. So at this point, what we can do is we can load in our Benchy. We're going to go to our desktop, 3D Benchy. And there is our little Benchy boat. So everything is kind of very standard about this Benchy. What we're going to do is, again, just use the default recommended settings. We're going to print at a layer height of 0.2 millimeters. We're going to print at a grid infill pattern with a density of 10%. Printing temperature is going to be 200. Build plate temperature is going to be 60. And the important thing here is that we are going to use no support, because the Benchies are meant to be printed without support. So looking at all of that, we're going to now hit slice. Slicing in progress. Okay, 1 hour, 1 minute. So this is one of the highlights of a Delta printer. Again, because you have such low inertia that you're trying to move around on your printhead, these printers are extremely fast. So typically, Benchies that I've printed in the past have ranged anywhere between 1 hour and 45 minutes to 2 hours and 15 minutes. If this really is able to print in 1 hour, this will be the fastest Benchy that I have ever printed. And that's obviously due to the fact that we're printing on a Delta-style printer. So just double checking that everything looks good here. We are also printing a brim. That's just a personal preference. And then I'm going to click Save to Removable Drive, and it has saved, and it is now ejecting. And at that point, we can remove the hardware, switch back over to the secondary camera, and are ready to go. So, perfect. I'm now going to remove this from my. Now going to remove the SD card from my laptop. I'm going to plug it into the side of the 3D printer here. Just like so. And now I'm going to take the roll of PLA that they included with the printer here. So it's a 200-gram roll of PLA, which will be more than enough to be able to print this Benchy. I'm going to open it up. And this is still shrink wrapped also. Not a problem. Clip. Now we're going to attach the spool to the spool holder like so we can feed it through the Titan extruder. Very exciting. I want to hold that switch down. Going to move down a bit, just like so. And zoom in. Okay. And now we're going to use the change filament option to load the filament. So we're going to click change. We're going to go into in. And at this point, it will start heating up. The preset seems to be 190 degrees Celsius. And it seems to be heating up pretty fast. It's already at 30. So that's really cool. So then as soon as that is heated up, I'm assuming what's going to happen is it'll automatically start extruding, or at least moving the extrusion motor. So going to help it along a little bit here by already preloading the filament so it doesn't have to extrude as far. Up, and here we go. It is already hot. Now we just need it to extrude. It's almost at temperature. It's at 185, 189. Heat complete. Please load filament to extruder and click confirm. Okay, and we see, in fact, that the Titan extruder is extruding and that filament is coming out of the print nozzle. Awesome. And it seems to be feeding very well, so no problems there. And we see here that it feeds, when you load a new filament, apparently a default amount. So there's no jog controls for being able to adjust how much material you extrude during a filament change operation. So, okay, so while that completes, we can move the camera around a little bit more, just to here. And what we're going to do is we're going to try to give you guys a nice close-up shot as the Benchy is printing for the entire time that it's printing. So we're going to click confirm, move that extruded filament out of the way, and now we're going to use the touchscreen to navigate to the print menu. You're going to find the FQSS 3D Benchy G-code file. Click confirm, and off we go. So now the bed is heating up, the extruder nozzle is heating up, and the Benchy test print is underway. Right now it is 4 minutes to noon. An hour and 1 minute means that we should finish printing by 12:55, which again would be a record-setting pace for a Benchy. What it's doing here first, even though the extruder was already up to temperature, it looks like it needs to preheat the bed first, and then which caused the extruder to turn off, so they're not heating simultaneously. Just to verify that the bed is heating, I'm just touching it, and it is heating right now. Perfect. All things being said, that configuration and actually getting that material to start extruding out of the printhead was incredibly easy and really straightforward. So I'm glad that that worked as well and as flawlessly as it did. All right, just catching up here with some chat messages. Brian Vine says, that's cool. My Benchy prints are usually in the hour 45-minute range on his i3s. Yep, so that's kind of similar to what I've also experienced. It says, it is extruding in a Titanic fashion. Oh man, Brian Vines with the dad jokes. I love it. Please keep them coming. That's awesome. Not only once, because it's a Titan extruder, but of course because we're also printing a boat. I don't know. Maybe that was a little morbid. Okay. So the bed is now at 52 degrees Celsius. Relatively soon, it should get a little better. Okay. Cool, cool. And here we go. Alrighty. We are off. Off to the races, and it looks like the leveling on this machine is spot on. Wow, that is really nice. I'm going to move you guys a little bit closer to give you guys a front row seat for the duration of this benchy printing. All right, and we will just let that go, and we'll see what happens in an hour and 1 minute. So while that is going, like I had said earlier in the live stream, basically I wanted to now go back and be able to tell you guys a bit about what the kind of technical aspects of this printer are. So in order to do that, let me back up a little bit and let's go take a look. Okay, so as I had said before, this printer is a Delta-style 3D printer. So what that means is that unlike a Cartesian printer where you have independent motors that directly affect travel in the X, Y, and Z axis, instead what you have is you have 3 motors that are attached to these linear slides. And you have to do math in order to figure out how to move each of those slides in tandem in order to get the XYZ location of the print head to be what you want to be. And the way you do that is, if you notice during the setup, essentially everything about this printer, each one of the arms with the ball joints are triangles. So what that means is you can essentially use the Pythagorean theorem to calculate how each of these motors have to move in terms of moving up and down in order to reach a desired X, Y, and Z location. The issue with that is, in order to do that using math, you need to take a bunch of square roots. And when you take a bunch of square roots, you basically want to have as much computational power available to you, because mathematically for microcontrollers, calculating square roots is hard. So because of that, and because the printer has to handle so many other things simultaneously, what you have to do is you have to basically use a 32-bit microcontroller. And a 32-bit microcontroller allows you to kind of do more operations simultaneously in order to basically calculate the displacements that you need for your controllers and to get everything to print quickly. As we had said before earlier in the stream as well, usually you don't have extruder motors on your extruder head. So that means that there is a very low inertia on the print head. And what that means is that you can basically fling your print head around very quickly, which allows it to print very quickly. And we definitely saw that in the benchy slicing time, where it only takes potentially an hour to print this benchy. So that's awesome. The other thing, of course, that we had mentioned is that unlike Cartesian printers, Delta printers have a stationary build plate. So that allows me to do things like basically just point a camera at the print head or at the print bed and not make you guys too dizzy while you guys are watching it print. And that's also really nice if you're, for example, a 3D printing YouTube channel, for example, that does a lot of time lapses. It may be possible to do those kind of time-lapse videos without having to use external software like Octoprint or Octolapse, because you can essentially just take time-lapse photos as opposed to having to patch in your camera with Octoprint and Octolapse, and then making sure that the print bed and the print head are moved correctly every time you take a photo. So those are some kind of fun advantages of Delta 3D printers. But so far, everything seems to be going smoothly. So let's really quickly just take a look here at what it's doing. And overall, wow, like that is really fast. So it's already completed the text on the bottom of the boat, and it's just flying through this print. So as Brian said, it's extruding in Titanic fashion. I mean, it is also extruding extremely quickly, which is really, 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 really cool. Okay. So the other thing that we had said is a feature of this printer is that, switching scenes here, it has automatic bed leveling. And we saw that before as it was probing the print bed. What was happening is it was essentially calculating the build plate orientation. So usually when you level a print bed, or even when it comes from a factory, it's really, really difficult to have everything extremely perpendicular for your leveling. So instead, what this printer does, it is essentially probing the bed, and it is then basically seeing where the plane is that defines the print bed. So it assumes that the print bed glass is perfectly level, and what it does then, it basically calculates the orientation of that plane. And instead of then just blindly not adjusting the Z height as it's just moving across the print bed, what automatic bed leveling will do is it will automatically adjust the Z offset or the Z height on the fly of the print nozzle in order to make sure that that first layer that you print is perfectly smooth. So unfortunately though, what that means is unlike you might think for automatic bed leveling, it's not necessarily leveling anything actively. Instead, it's just calculating the orientation of the print bed. So what that means is that even though your first layer might go down well, it's not actually adjusting the G-code orientation or rotation or dynamically reslicing it as it's traveling. Instead, what's happening is it's just kind of moving the Z to make sure that you're hitting that plane. So depending on how off level your print bed is, you might still end up with a print afterwards that doesn't kind of print, or that doesn't stand up straight, because you are still printing effectively at an angle, but at the same time, it will make sure that some small leveling misadjustments are compensated for and accounted for, and at the very least, you'll have very nice bed adhesion for all of your printing when you begin. So yeah, so at this point, everything is going really well, which is very exciting. Hopefully you guys are enjoying the live stream. I just wanted to take this time really quick to do some quick shout outs before we get into some more technical items about this Benchy. So one of the things that you will be hearing in the background right now, or have heard in the background throughout this live stream, is some lo-fi hip-hop music. And that lo-fi hip-hop music is because of a channel called Alpha Gaming. So Alpha Gaming is run by a Twitch streamer and YouTube content creator called Harris Heller. He does a lot of videos on being able to improve the quality of your videos and the quality of your live streams, and does everything in terms of YouTube tutorials for lighting, to cameras, to music and audio, especially for streaming. And one of the things that he noticed is that YouTube is very good at basically finding if you use someone else's music in your live streams. And what'll then happen, they'll basically demonetize your video and end up getting all the revenues to the creator of the music. Unfortunately, for most small streamers and small YouTube content creators, kind of buying licenses to music can be very expensive. So what Harris did is he essentially created a 6-hour playlist of royalty-free music called Stream Beats, which you can essentially just play in the background from Spotify or YouTube or Apple Music or Google Play, and basically use that for free in your live streams or in your YouTube videos to kind of have some background music going on, which is nice because then, especially for streaming purposes, you can sometimes just have music playing in the background without needing to kind of fill dead air all the time, which is awesome. So in case you are a YouTuber or a streamer watching this, definitely give Stream Beats a look. And if you do give Stream Beats a look and pop over into Harris's channel, Alpha Gaming, do let him know in the comments that I sent you, and that we certainly appreciate that he has made stream beats available for the masses to use during their live stream. All right, so let us go back now to a close-up of the print, and we see, I mean, this benchy is flying. It is printing so fast already, which is awesome. At this point, let's see if I go over to the printer. Let's see how many % done it is already. We're already at 14%, and we have been printing for 13 minutes. So based off of that math, just doing some quick math in my head, we may not hit the 1 hour mark, but maybe that percentage will increase kind of as we go towards the end. So that's something to look out for, and that's something that we'll keep an eye on. Okay. Next up, we have some details about the Titan extruder. So the Titan extruder that is on this printer is a bit different than something that you would find on a 3D printing setup that is common today. And essentially what a Titan extruder is that instead of having a direct drive gear where you attach the gear that drives the filament directly from the stepper motor with the Hob gear, you instead have a 3-to-1 gear ratio. And what that allows you to do is that allows you to apply more torque to a filament as you're printing. And by applying more torque, you have several advantages. So the first one is that if you're trying to print material maybe that's difficult to print, or you're not able to push material through a hot end fast enough, by applying more torque, because of that extra gear reduction, you're able to effectively push better and hopefully not end up having any skipped steps with your stepper motor. From a cost perspective, Titan extruders are also beneficial because it basically allows you to use smaller stepper motors compared to just having a direct drive non-geared extruder. And that potentially, one, drives down weight of your entire printer just because you can use a smaller stepper motor, but also it drives down cost because the more torque that you apply for a stepper motor, the electrical construction of a stepper motor, the way it's set up, the bigger essentially the motor is and the more material you have to use. So by adding this 3-to-1 gear reduction in, you're essentially able to use smaller motors in order to achieve the same torque, which again drives down the price, or if you use the same size motor, potentially has the advantage of basically being able to what's it called? Kind of apply more torque to the filament. So this benchy is really flying. So I apologize, I guess first off, if I'm trying to rush through these technical details of the slides rather quickly here. Honestly, I did not think that this printer would print this benchy this fast. So I just wanted to make sure that I can kind of hit every key point throughout the stream before the print completes, just so to make sure that we cover everything that I wanted to throughout this live stream. So one quick thing also while we're here, at this point, I wanted to give a quick shout out to today's video sponsor, PCBWay. So as I had said earlier in the stream, PCBWay is a PCB fab house where you can order your custom PCBs for kind of a really, really good price. So they basically have this website available. So if you've ever done a maker project and you've used software like Eagle or any kind of other routing software, you're going to be familiar kind of with the process of doing your board layout, doing your schematic, and then getting a bunch of Gerber files, and then potentially uploading those to a PCB fabrication service, and then from there needing to go get your parts made. And typically in the past, PCBs, I guess the manufacture of PCBs really required expert knowledge in order to get circuit boards fabricated, and it was both very kind of difficult and also potentially very pricey. PCBWay, though, has this really cool website system here on their website, where if you just go to PCBWay.com and you click on their PCB Instant Quote tab, this will take you to a website or another website as soon as it loads. And here you'll see several options, including this checkbox here, which is Quick Order PCB, where it autofills parameters. And this is neat because what you can do is you can simply click on this button, wait a minute while it loads, and then you can just upload a zip file of your Gerbers, which we have here, for example, that I've done from a previous project. And now what it will do is it will automatically configure all of the parameters that you need in order to get those Gerber files made. So for example, here I've uploaded a Gerber file of the stepper motor driver interface board that I had designed previously and used previously in my DIY 3D scanner and robotic drawing machine project. And basically it automatically recognizes that it's a 2-layer board. It automatically recognizes the size and various other parameters. And then you can go in here and adjust options in terms of quantity and board types that you like in order to get your PCBs manufactured really quickly, really cheaply, and really easily. One other fun thing is you can basically choose your solder mask color. So instead of just going with a standard green, you can get a red, you can get a yellow, you can get a blue, you can get a black. And then you can also select the quantity that you want, which you can do down below here. Where are we? Aha, quantity pieces. And we see here, for 10 PCBs with a 24-hour build time, you're only paying $5. And that is a perfect price for any maker project, especially if you're on any kind of stage of your product design. I mean, these circuit boards are good for anything from prototyping, but then not beating yourself up over it too much if you made a mistake and have to rerun the boards. But as part of the stream sponsorship, PCBWay manufactured 10 of these boards for me for free for use in a upcoming project. And I chose the black solder mask, and here's overall what it looks like. So overall, I'm really impressed by the quality of the boards. Again, I was able to get 10 copies of my boards for $5 and then shipping cost, which was incredible. But one thing I also have to say is that unlike other PCB fab services that I've used in the past, the shipping from PCBWay was extremely quick. So I ordered these boards on Saturday afternoon, and they actually arrived at my door at my house by Thursday morning. And that's a really stark contrast to some other PCB manufacturers that I've used in the past, where I would submit my order and then I would have to wait for a board to get panelized and then ship out and come back. And that turnaround time took almost 3 weeks. So overall, again, I want to just say thank you to PCBWay for sponsoring this live stream, for providing these boards for me. And because they're sponsored and because you're watching this live stream, in case you ever need any boards, they also have a special offer going right now for the first 100 people to use code SUPERMAKE during the checkout process. They get $10 off their PCBs for an order of $10 or more. So you essentially, if you're one of the first 100 people to use the code and you have the need for circuit boards, you essentially get free PCBs just as a thank you for being a Super Make Something viewer. So a big shout out to PCBWay for one, having their website being super easy to upload and order your boards, and also having fast shipping. And also their customer service representative that worked with me while figuring out how to get these boards manufactured, just as we were setting up this sponsorship, was extremely helpful, extremely responsive, and overall I just had a great and fantastic experience. So in case you ever need a circuit board, please consider checking out PCBWay and let them know that you're a Super Make Something fan by using code SUPERMAKE and getting some free PCBs in the process. Excellent. All right, so now let us go back and take a look at how this printer is doing. Man, this Benchy is really flying. It is printing so quickly, and that is awesome. All right, so let me take a look. In terms of percentage done, we are at 25% at 23 minutes in. Okay. Right now, I'm just taking a quick peek at this benchy. I see no stringing, no under extrusion, no over extrusion. Right now, this really looks to be a perfect print. So the FLSUN QQ-S so far is showing some really great promise for being a very good printer. So let's see how it finishes out and whether it finishes strong. Okay. Perfect. Okay, so one other thing that I had mentioned previously is that if you follow me on Twitter or other social media platforms, in addition to YouTube, I have a thing going called the Sticker Squad. And what I do there is I like to get in touch with makers and basically swap stickers. So I have a bunch of Super Make Something stickers, and a lot of other makers have a bunch of stickers for their channels as well. And we basically just swap stickers and put them in each other's videos, with me deciding to make this Sticker Squad large format 3D printed Sticker Squad sign where I can put everybody's stickers onto and put them in the background of my videos. And this was something that I had already started previously with my last live stream when we had the JG Aurora A5S. But since the last stream, we've actually gotten a couple new additions to the Sticker Squad sign. The first one, of course, being Brian Vines from the BV3D channel. And Brian is, of course, here today in the chat. So Brian makes a bunch of really cool 3D printing YouTube videos that not only teach you kind of how to set up printers and various 3D printing tips and tricks, but overall just really generally good advice on how to do basic maintenance on your printers. For example, if you need to replace components like plastic components with the metal components like you do sometimes with the Ender 3 with their lever arms, Brian makes fantastic video tutorials about those that you should definitely check out if you have any 3D printing questions. So thank you, Brian, for the sticker, and thank you also today for being here in the chat. I'm very glad that you could join us, and definitely hope that people check you out. We also have some other additions. So the 3D Printing Professor, which you may also know from YouTube. And I just see Brian commented. He says he sees his sticker. He has my sticker on his laptop, which is often in my videos. So again, that's also very much appreciated. Thank you so much for featuring my sticker. So other makers that we've added since the last time we've been live is the 3D Printing Professor. So the 3D Printing Professor also does mostly 3D printer setup and YouTube videos. And right now he is running a Kickstarter campaign for the Print-A-Block, which is basically 3D printable models that you can snap together and basically create these modular action figures. Again, a great set of tutorials for 3D printing and a great 3D printing resource. So definitely be sure to check out the 3D Printing Professor. Another person that has joined the Sticker Squad since we last had this live stream is the 3D Printing Llama. So lately, the 3D Printing Llama has been all about live streaming on his YouTube channel. And he's a growing YouTube channel that basically live streams his day-to-day as he does his 3D printing adventures. He is very experienced, definitely, in terms of streaming setups, so it's always cool to see how other makers are using the YouTube platform for being able to live stream, so definitely another channel that you want to check out. And then finally, the latest edition that we have is a printing channel from Poland by Medic3D. And Medic3D essentially finds cool Thingiverse models and does these mini build videos where he shows you how to assemble these models and shows you basically how to make cool things from Thingiverse. And one of his latest videos was this 3D printable collapsible lightsaber, and the results for that were super duper impressive. So another channel that I can highly recommend checking out if that's something that you are interested in. But you know, again, I just want to say to everyone who is here and who sent in stickers, and especially Brian who's watching right now, thank you so much for being part of the Sticker Squad. And I really hope that, you know, this is a good way, I think, for different makers to collaborate with each other just to be able to kind of show off and advertise other channels, but also hopefully get collaboration going within the 3D printing community so that we all have a good time and kind of make each other and viewers aware of other resources that they could look into in case they want to learn more about 3D printing and making stuff in general. We also have a new person joining the chat, Scalvi Calvi. He seems to know Brian, so hello Scalvi, welcome and thank you for checking out this live stream. In case you are just joining us, today we are setting up the FLSUN QQ-S courtesy of Gearbest. We started the live stream by basically building the printer from scratch and have now gotten to the point of a live stream where we are printing the Benchy. The Benchy test model is the standard stress test that you use for 3D printers, and one of the advantages of Delta printers is that it can print extremely quickly, and that's certainly something that we're seeing with this model right now. So at the moment, we have basically only been printing for about 30 minutes, and this Benchy is over halfway done. So according to the Cura slicer, the total print time for this Benchy is set to be 1 hour and 1 minute. That's significantly faster than any other Benchy that I've printed in the past, so that's super exciting. And what we'll see at the end here is we'll basically take the Benchy off the print bed and compare it to various other Benchies that we've printed in the past on live streams to see how the quality of the FLSUN QQ-S stacks up to other printers that we've unboxed over the live stream. Also, again, a quick shout out to Gearbest for providing this printer to me for this live stream. If you are interested, based on these results, in picking up your own FLSUN QQ-S, you can do so by using the affiliate link in the video description. That's a Gearbest affiliate link. And there's also a coupon code next to that affiliate link that will get you $10 off your purchase. So you'll be able to pick up this printer for $369 and get a printer that has a big build area and a massive build height at 360 millimeters. So if you're looking to print something extremely tall, for example, like a model rocket, which is very relevant today because of the SpaceX NASA launch that we're going to see at 320, definitely consider doing that as well. And let them know I sent you by using the coupon code in the video description. Okay. So let us, while this is going, also take a look at maybe some of the videos that I have been up to since we last live streamed back in December. So since we last live streamed in December, I've had 3 YouTube videos come out on my main YouTube channel. The first one was a Super Make Something Basics episode, which is a video series that I do on my channel that's different from the typical project videos that I do, in that it tries to teach about a new concept about 3D printing that I haven't covered previously in my channel. And this specific video was about multi-material 3D printing using the KeyDTech X Pro. And the KeyDTech X Pro is a multi-material 3D printer. Oh no, I see we're having buffering issues with the live stream. That's no good. 1 second. Uh-oh. I sincerely hope we haven't lost the live stream. Let me just quickly double check. Hello? There we go, we are back. Okay, hopefully those live stream issues have been resolved. But excellent. Okay, Brian says I'm still on the air. So thank you so much, Brian, for letting me know that I'm still on the air. Perfect. It does look like maybe my internet connection is just having an issue replaying the live stream. Okay. Anyway, back to what we were saying. So that printer was featuring the KeyDetect X Pro, and that basics video was basically teaching everyone about multi-material 3D printing. So instead of a classic kind of single extruder setup that you see with a lot of FDM machines, instead we have a dual extruder setup where not only can you print in 2 colors simultaneously to create really cool looking models, but you can also print with things like dissolvable filaments, where in case you have a really extreme model that you're trying to print in terms of kind of overhangs or anything like that, dissolvable filament will essentially allow you to print with 2 materials simultaneously, one PLA, and in case of PLA, PVA, which is essentially kind of hardened glue stick, which you can then dissolve in warm water, and you don't have to remove any of the support materials. So that's a really cool feature because it allows you to do some really cool things with 3D printing. But in order to print in multi-materials, you have to do a little bit more pre-processing work to get your models to print correctly. And usually, if you're downloading a model off of Thingiverse, that means using a software like MeshMixer to take a model, split it up into 2 separate STL files, and then recombine those within a slicer like Cura to generate G-code instructions about how to print with 2 materials simultaneously. So that last Super Make Something Basics video basically went into the details of not only how to set up multicolor prints if you're doing it, for example, from a clean design in Fusion, but also from using multiple materials simultaneously and using MeshMixer to then take an existing model and be able to print in 2 materials. And finally, also, I went into some details about PVA and dissolvable filaments. So if that's something that you're interested in, please do consider checking those out. And let me know what you think in the comments of that video. Also, I guess as you saw previously, kind of inspired by the Harris Heller YouTube channel, I decided to make my own LED lights, which you see here in the background. They are kind of quasar LED tube lights, which are really cool, look really good in video production. But when I investigated about whether or not I could afford purchasing my own, I was a little bit shocked just at the price because they were kind of a tiny bit expensive. So instead, what I did is I made a YouTube video basically describing how to create your own DIY quasar tube lights for less than $35. And that was something that was part of a Super Make Something Minis episode where compared to a kind of normal project video, longer form project video that I usually post on my YouTube video, it's like this quick 2 to 3 minute video without any words that basically just shows you how to assemble kind of a relatively simple project that you might want to build yourself. So definitely, if you're in the market for upgrading your live stream setup or your lighting setup in any way, definitely be sure to check out that DIY Quasar LED tube lights video and let me know what you think. And on the topic of LEDs, of course, the latest video, which thank you, Brian, for letting me know that you liked that video in the chat, that I worked on was making an edge-lit LED sign using the eCub Maker Toy DIY 3-in-1 machine. And this was a really interesting machine because unlike a typical 3D printer, which can only 3D print, the Toy DIY actually was a dual extrusion 3D printer, so being able to print in 2 colors simultaneously, but also was a laser engraver and a CNC engraver, or a CNC machine, which you could use as a CNC machine depending on how you adjusted the settings. And to show off the capabilities of that machine, I wanted to make an edge-lit LED sign of a dumpster fire with the year 2020 engraved underneath it, just to kind of hopefully, make it a little lighter to celebrate just kind of how definitely interesting 2020 has been so far, and just make a little bit of a sign that at least has a cute face to make us feel a little bit better about the situation that is 2020. So this was a really interesting machine for sure, and definitely had a lot of capabilities. So if that's something that you're interested in looking into, definitely check out the Toy DIY 3-in-1, and also make sure to check out that YouTube video in case you'd like to learn more about that printer. Okay, let us now check back into the print, and we see that the benchy is really flying now. And wow, this is going quite well. Excellent. So right now, the benchy, after, let's see how long it's been printing, has been printing for 38 minutes and is 52% done. So we are getting very close here. Usually what I find with the benchy is that at the end it does accelerate a bit, just because you're printing less surface area. Right now the benchy is printing the bow. And right now, again, just to kind of comment on what we're seeing here, at this moment, I really see absolutely no stringing whatsoever. So the Cura configuration file for the QQ-S that came with the latest version of Cura seems to be really good. And overall, this is starting to look like a great benchy. So yeah, overall impressions so far of the QQ-S as it's going is very positive. So for a Delta-style printer, certainly compared to another style 3D printer, there was a little bit more setup involved, but most of it was assembled for you, just kind of a little bit tricky to set up because of the different geometric configuration. But once together, so far, there have been absolutely no issues. The printer is doing everything that it was advertised to do and is printing extremely quickly. And so far, I'm really pleased with how this print is turning out. So if you're interested, again, in checking this printer out, do please check the link in the video description below to check out that Gearbest link. And again, a big thank you for Gearbest for sending the QQ-S for us for use during this live stream. Okay, turning to the chat, Brian asks, have you tried laser engraving on a 3D print? Like maybe to etch labels for buttons on an electronics project case? And actually, that's a really interesting question. So I have not tried that yet. But that's certainly something that I think would be really interesting to try. So I wonder now, I guess considering it, how that would work in terms of material. So because so typically I print in PLA, which has a relatively low melting temperature of 190 degrees Celsius, and obviously a laser is a lot more energy just because you are basically burning material. So, but that would be a really interesting thing to test out, whether or not you can actually laser engrave on 3D prints. That would be really cool and really useful. And actually, that would be also really nice for FDM prints, because I know sometimes depending on the nozzle diameter that you're using, it can be difficult to get very small text to show up really like well and with high detail. So that's actually a really interesting thing that I'd love to try. So yeah, I'll definitely add that to my list of things to try out. And as soon as I have any results from that, I will definitely let you know. So thank you. Yeah, and thank you again for everybody that is stopping by here today for the live stream. I really appreciate everybody stopping in, checking us out while we do this benchy print. In case you guys have any questions, please do let me know in the chat. I'll try my best to answer that to the best of my ability. And thank you so much for everyone that has stopped by today. And I just really appreciate everyone being here on this fine Saturday before the latest American rocket launch. Yep. And Brian says, and I agree. So Brian says, I would suspect you'd want to have the laser power level somewhat reduced. And I definitely think that that's true. So you'd probably want to make sure that you take the laser power down a little bit and not kind of do it at full blast. And typically for laser cutters, so if you guys have been following my channel for a while, you'll know that I purchased a laser cutter actually a while ago. It was the K40 laser from eBay, which is a laser cutter that a lot of people and a lot of makers commonly use for their projects. And actually there you are able to adjust the laser power with a knob on the front. So you can basically go between engraving and actually cutting material. And I think probably for this, if you want to engrave on something like a 3D print, you definitely probably want to turn that laser power down pretty significantly, just to make sure that you don't either melt your print outright, or catch it on fire or something like that. So you definitely don't want to end up with a singed print. But that's definitely something really cool that I'd like to try out. So this benchy, looking at this progress here, is actually turning out really nicely. The bow is almost done, and now we're just almost ready to finish up here. Cool. So far, I don't really see any layer shifting or anything like that either, which is really, really nice. Here, let me zoom in a little bit. Let me just get some light on this. And this is also really impressive. So a lot of the benchies that I have printed in the past, the writing on the back of the ship was not visible. So just kind of a spoiler here, I guess, for when we actually look at the final print quality. But it looks like the text is definitely visible at this 0.2 millimeter layer height, and it looks like the details in this benchy are incredibly well preserved. So I don't know. So far, it looks like maybe this benchy is in the running for being one of the best benchies that we've printed, but I guess we'll see in a little bit. So yeah, so other than that, hopefully everyone's Saturday is going well. I know with the current COVID situation, it's difficult to go outside and kind of do the things you regularly do. I know I, for one, definitely need a haircut, potentially one of these days. Maybe that's something that I can do on live stream. I'm just kidding. I would not cut my hair on a live stream. But yeah, I guess if you guys aren't watching the rocket launch, or you are watching the rocket launch, I guess, are you guys doing anything exciting today? Anything that you guys are looking forward to? Any projects that you're working on? Please let me know in the chat, and let's talk about it while we wait for this benchy to finish printing. So again, I really appreciate everybody being here. So thank you so much for stopping by during today's live stream. Overall, I have to say, super duper impressed with this 3D printer. Okay. So speaking of things that we're excited about, so in addition to some previous projects, I also have another couple projects in the queue. So the first one of which will be doing another machine learning tutorial on this time image classification using the NVIDIA Jetson Xavier NX. This will be another Super Make Something basics video, similar to the one that I made previously featuring the Jetson Nano that went and explained how to set up a neural network autoencoder for image compression and decompression. So if that's something that you're interested in, definitely be sure to like and subscribe for that video. Because what we're going to do during that video is essentially starting from scratch. We're going to set up the Jetson Xavier NX, which is NVIDIA's newest platform, and then we're going to code an image classification algorithm from scratch using something called probabilistic classifiers. And basically what we're going to be able to do at the end of that video, and what you'll hopefully be able to do at the end of that basics video, is learn how to basically program a machine learning algorithm where you basically give it a picture, for example, of a banana or an apple or a dog, and then simply based on that picture itself, your computer will be able to tell you whether or not the picture that you're looking at is a dog or a banana or an apple or anything else that you might want to train it with. So definitely be on the lookout for that. That's certainly an exciting video that I'm looking forward to that's coming up soon. Another video that is also in the works, which will be coming up soon, is about the Elegoo Saturn. So if you're into resin printing, You may have noticed that yesterday, actually, Elegoo announced the wide release of their Saturn resin printer. It is a resin printer that is larger than the ever-popular Elegoo Mars and Elegoo Mars Pro that is always sold out on Amazon just because it's so good. But this printer will actually have a 4K screen. So not only will you be able to print things that are significantly bigger than something that you can print, for example, with the Elegoo Mars. So I think the print area itself, the print bed plate, is about 3 times the size of the Elegoo Mars's build plate. But you'll also be able to do so in higher resolutions. So again, featuring a 4K masking LCD screen compared to the Elegoo Mars's 2K LCD screen. So that's definitely something exciting. I know resin printing has gotten a lot more popular over the last couple months, especially just because, you know, people are really looking to print highly detailed prints. Resin printers are used a lot kind of for people that do jewelry making and jewelry casting. So that's something cool also to look forward to in case you want to learn more about resin 3D printing. Taking a look really quick at the chat, Dave Wilson says he's waiting for delivery of a 3018 CNC machine today. Oh man, that's exciting. He said he wanted to learn a bit before starting on an MP CNC build, and I think MP CNC is mostly printed CNC, so that's where you 3D print components for your CNC machine. And he says, fingers crossed the weather is go for launch. Absolutely. So Dave will also be checking out the SpaceX launch today. Very cool, very cool. And yeah, on the topic of CNC machines, so I have a Shapeoko 2 CNC machine that I bought right around the time that I started this channel, and I have to admit that I really haven't used it as much as I should have. So what ended up happening is I ended up moving, and unfortunately I have not found a good place to set up my Shapeoko yet. But I definitely want to get back into CNCing as well, just because that's a really, I mean, that's a totally different beast, obviously, compared to 3D printing, because it's subtractive manufacturing versus additive manufacturing. But CNC machines, I mean, are incredibly useful for making both metal parts and allowing you to make circuit boards and things like that. So definitely very excited to hear what you think about your 3018 CNC machine. Excited that it's coming today. So looking outside also, the weather looks good. So again, I don't really know where you are, but hopefully it'll be easy for you to get your CNC machine into your house. And hopefully the weather will hold for the SpaceX launch. So, all right, the Benchy is nearing completion almost, which is awesome. One other thing here. Okay, so the other item that I'm currently planning is another 3D printer project build video, this time featuring the ANET ET4 Pro. This is actually the one where I'm planning on using, or this is actually the project where I'm planning on using the stepper motor driver boards that I had made through PCBWay, the one that I said would involve lots of gearing. So be on the lookout for that. I don't want to give too much away about that project yet, just because I think that's going to be one that many people are going to be excited about. But if you're interested in some mechanical engineering and learning more about stepper motors and stepper drivers, please be sure to tune in for that and like and subscribe for that one as well. Okay. Now heading back to the printer. So looking at the Benchy here, we are at 77% complete at 52 minutes in. Okay, so we probably won't hit the 1 hour and 1 minute mark, but we'll certainly be close. So let's see, it's got 8 minutes to finish if it's going to try to maintain that estimated print time. But so far so good. One other thing I have to note here about the QQ-S is that just taking a look at the temperature of both the print bed and the hot end, the temperatures for the hot end is holding steady at 200 degrees Celsius and the bed is holding steady at 60 degrees Celsius. and there really isn't any fluctuation. So the PID values that it's using for maintaining its temperatures in the firmware also seem to be extremely well tuned. So overall, I mean, so far I'm incredibly impressed with this 3D printer. And it really does everything that it advertises itself to do. So it's a Delta 3D printer, prints very fast. Build quality of the printer is very good. Auto leveling was very quick, very easy and smooth. And in general, it looks like the print quality of this Benchy is going to be among the best that we've ever printed. So very, very exciting. Okay. Alrighty. Excellent, excellent, excellent. I guess in terms of 3D printers, is there a favorite 3D printer that you guys have or have used in the past? Is there one that you swear by? I know that a lot of people are very enamored with the Ender 3. Disclosure, I've actually never used an Ender 3 before, so that's definitely something I'd be interested in trying. But if you guys have any favorite 3D printers that you guys like to use on a regular basis, please let me know. I'd be interested to hear what you guys are using. Also, I guess now, kind of while this printer is printing, in terms of noise, this 3D printer isn't very loud, which is really nice. I could definitely see me using this 3D printer regularly in my office while I'm working, and not getting too distracted while it's printing. So that's nice. Also, definitely delivering in the quiet operation front, as promised on the box. Super excited about this printer. And I have to say again, just having been part of the 3D printing community since the PrinterBot Simple days, where you basically had to buy a kit 3D printer that was laser cut and then assemble everything together. And at that point, I think the price of that printer was around $349. How far 3D printing has come is just incredible to me. So I mean, it's just been a fantastic journey so far, and I'm really excited to see where 3D printing goes next. Just the price, the quality of machine that you can get for a price that used to just give you the most basic entry-level machine is super impressive. Real quick here, while it's printing this part, I just noticed that it did some bridging where it's connecting the arch of the Benchy together. Let's see. It seemed to be able to do that without issue. I don't really see any drooping or stringing. So that's cool. Let's see. So far, so good. We are nearing completion on this Benchy. Okay, we have another question in the chat. It says, Brian Vines, how loud are the fans? Unfortunately, I don't have a kind of scientific way of measuring the fan noise. I can just kind of qualitatively compare it to some other printers that I've used. Compared to the MP Select Mini, which was also a Delta printer, this printer is definitely a lot quieter. I know a lot of kind of concerns sometimes with open frame printers, and this was definitely the case for my Monoprice Select Mini, is that it was both open frame and completely metal. You basically created this giant sound chamber where it would just reverberate and blast the fan noise out. Compared to that, it's definitely a lot quieter. Let's see, if I were to compare the print volume to my other printers, I would say it's maybe a little bit louder then my Lotmax SC10. It's about as loud as the JG Aurora A5S. Most of that volume, though, doesn't come from the fans, so the fans are actually really, really quiet, which is nice. Most of that volume seems to come kind of from the sliders moving around and just having an entirely metallic kind of print bed where you kind of get some echoes and things like that as things are moving around. So, okay. Okay, we are really getting close to finishing up this print now. Let me double check to see what percentage we are at in terms of printing. We are at 85% at 58 minutes and 40 seconds. So we are getting really, really close. Excellent. Also, another thing to note, I guess right now I really see no ghosting or anything like that or other kind of print artifacts. Again, we'll be able to see that a little bit better in a minute once the print finishes and we're able to shine some light on it. But so far, the print is looking like it's going extremely smoothly and extremely well. Again, one of the things that I'm most impressed about here is this first layer is essentially perfect going down. So it looks like the auto leveling did exactly what it promised to do and worked just as advertised. So that's super duper cool. Okay, now the Benchy is printing the first layer of the roof and it's doing bridging. So that is going to be the most exciting part because that is a big bridge. Right now it's going across the diagonal and it had zero problems. Zero problems bridging the roof, and it is just perfect. What a perfect first layer. Okay, this is impressive. This is a very, very impressive thing that it's doing right now. So now it's going down to the second layer. Again, it looks really, really smooth. Wow, that's really impressive. Gotta say, I'm objectively very impressed with the print quality of the FLSUN Q so far. So, very cool. I guess while we're waiting for this Benchy to print, while I went and I downloaded, excuse me, while I went and I downloaded this Benchy file from Thingiverse, I noticed that they have like 30 different files in the zip file for printing that Benchy. So it looks like they both have like single color Benchies, dual color Benchies, multicolor Benchies, I guess that you would use with something like the palette or the mosaic, where you can kind of print 5 simultaneous colors at once. Have any of you ever tried to print a multi-material or multicolor Benchy? And if so, what was your experience? Maybe next time we do a live stream and it happens to be a multi-material 3D print or multi-material 3D printer, maybe we can try printing a multi-material Benchy. Besides that, are there any kind of common stress tests besides the Benchy that you guys like to use? I know Chuck Hellebuck has his Ender 3 series with his Filament Friday videos, and I know he has his calibration cube. I've never actually printed one of those either, but that certainly seems to be another common model. Just curious if any of you have ever printed any kind of other calibration piece that you would like to use, and if you found that calibration piece to be a better or worse indicator of printing quality than the 3D Benchy. Okay, taking a look back here at the Benchy. Going well. It is beginning to print on the roof. I guess in retrospect, I didn't need to try to rush through the slides that I had with the printer as quickly as I thought. So next time I'll definitely keep that in mind. But I guess given the fact that we went through the slides relatively quickly, kind of after we had started the print, is there anything that you guys have questions on or that you'd like me to look into more? I know we previously explored what firmware was in the printer, and it does seem to be the Robin firmware. And yeah, kind of also some other nice features. But if there's any other questions that you guys have maybe that we didn't get to cover, please let me know, and I'd try to address those and be happy to address those now. Okay, we have a comment from Dave Wilson. He says he has the GE Tech A20M, but was unfortunately never able to get good prints on it. So right now it is unfortunately just sitting there collecting dust. And I've heard some things with dual extrusion printers especially, just because being able to print with dual extrusion printers, having nozzle alignment being perfect relative to each other is basically key to getting a good dual 3D print going. Dual extrusion 3D prints and definitely printers can sometimes have that issue if they have some print nozzle alignment. And I think based on what I read online while I was preparing for the Tech review for the multi-material print, that really seemed to be the make or break it feature for different printers, is how well that print nozzle was aligned. So yeah, I'm sorry to hear that, you know, the A20M never worked out for you. I've never actually tried that printer myself, but I did see it online. It looked like another good budget option. If you are able to debug it, I guess I'd be definitely interested to hear your follow-up thoughts on it, but sorry to hear that that didn't work. But I have definitely heard that a lot of the resulting kind of effectiveness of the printer is based on the nozzle. And here Dave Wilson says it's a 2-in-1. Okay, so that's interesting. So there's actually two different types of multi-material prints now that Dave says that it's a 2-in-1 machine. You can either have dual extruder printers, so that's where you have two distinct nozzles, or you have, and then basically you feed filament independently through each of the nozzles, or you have something called a 2-in-1 machine, where you basically have two extruder motors, but they both feed into the same hot end, and then you basically retract one filament, purge it out, and then you begin printing another filament, again through the same nozzle. And I guess there's some advantages and disadvantages to kind of those setups. So, you know, for dual extruder printers, obviously you don't have to worry about material purging like you do with a 2-in-1, but you have the nozzle alignment issues potentially. For a 2-in-1, you have to worry about material purging, but you don't have to worry about alignment issues. So, you know, that's definitely, each type of printer definitely comes with its own considerations that you need to take into account. And I know with the GE Tech A20M, I believe it's also a Bowden style printer. I don't think it's direct drive. I guess it couldn't be if it's a 2-in-1, just because you'd have to have the stepper motors independently feed material. So that can definitely be tricky. So Dave Wilson also says he's saving for a Mark III's and an MMU2S. I have heard fantastic things about anything that I've seen online about the Mark III's and the Mark III's. Unfortunately, I've never had the chance to use one of them, but certainly everyone that I've known, even some coworkers at work, they have those machines, and they are just completely enamored with both the quality and with the final print results. Of course, obviously that, you know, comes with a price, so those printers tend to be a little bit more expensive than other printers you may find, but overall, I've heard really, really great things about the Mark III's, and with the MM2U's, you also can do color changes, so that's definitely something that I'm also interested in the future. So, all right, switching back over, the Benchy is almost done. It is now printing the smokestack. And looking at the print time, we are at 98% at 1 hour and 6 minutes. Oh man, so we were really, really close to the estimated time, but maybe about 10% longer than estimated. But overall, again, 1 hour and 6 minutes, 1 hour and 7 minutes for the Benchy is the fastest Benchy that I have ever printed in my life. So again, Benchies usually, for me, take about 1 hour 45 minutes to print. This one took 1 hour and 8 minutes. I think by the time all is said and done, we are now at 99%. We are so close. And the Benchy is finished, ladies and gentlemen. Excellent. We have a new completed Benchy and a new successful 3D print. So That is awesome. The FLSUN worked as advertised and completed the print. There's also a new 3D printer in the world that is functional and operational, which is very exciting. Right now, what we're going to wait on is we're going to wait for this glass bed to cool down a little bit to test out how easy it is to remove prints from the print bed. But just looking at this initially, ooh, that looks really nice. That looks like a really, really nice benchy. Very cool. All right, so we're going to let that cool down for a second until we begin to dissect it a little bit by doing some camera close-ups. Brian Vine says, "Lol, the fastest benchy in the West." And wow, I'm incredibly impressed. I have never seen a benchy print this quickly. Very, very exciting. All right, very cool, very cool. So 1 p.m. That was also, yeah, relatively painless, relatively flawless. The print was able to be set up very quickly. Well, relatively quickly, I guess, given the different kinematics and the learning curves maybe involved with a Delta machine. But overall, once the machine was together, I have to say it printed flawlessly. Overall, again, impression-wise, I'm really impressed with the overall build quality of the machine. The wiring is clean. The cable management is flawless. Everything was really nice, organized in the printer base itself. I really like this really beefy and strain relief wiring harness on the printer, which is also nice. The spool holder did its job. Again, kind of a standard component, but the spool holder did its job. The inclusion of a Titan extruder for a printer at this price is also very nice. And yeah, it seems, to me, you get a lot of value for a $369 printer. And again, that's $369 with the coupon code that you can use at Gearbest. So overall impressions really positive. Also really liking the automatic bed leveling. The automatic bed leveling seemed to work flawlessly. I mean, it was just perfect. There was no issues with the first layer being printed too low, so that was fantastic. Overall, general impressions of this printer are extremely positive. So really quickly, going back to the chat, it says, Dave Wilson says, "Let it cool or the surface will get damaged." I damaged mine and the FLSUN sent a replacement for free. Oh, so that's nice. I can say that their customer service is really good. Okay, well, that's really good to know. So I will definitely do that and wait for the print to cool. I know usually sometimes I get a little bit anxious and take a print off the print bed before it's ready, but thank you for that advice. That's really good to know. It's also nice to hear that FLSUN has great customer service like that they'll send you your replacement for free, so that's fantastic. Wow, just overall, I really have only positive things to say about this printer. I guess I would say, given the fact that Delta printers are maybe a little bit different than kind of more common Cartesian 3D printers, it definitely helps, I think, to know what you're getting into. So if you are maybe watching this as a 3D printing kind of newcomer and you've never set up a printer before, definitely be aware that maybe the assembly, just because it's so different from a Cartesian printer, I don't want to say is more complicated, but it's certainly, if you're looking for a type of printer where there's the most information about it, there's probably significantly more information about Cartesian printers than there is about Delta printers. That being said, though, based on what this printer is advertising, both in terms of kind of the stationary print bed and the auto leveling, it seems that once this printer is set up, it does seem like it's very user-friendly to printing newbies. So what they advertise is basically once you level the bed, again, assuming that, as Dave Wilson suggests, you kind of take your time and you let it cool down and never try to pry off the print or anything like that and cause the bed to unlevel. Once leveled, the bed should stay relatively level. which is nice, which means that, you know, doing multiple prints back to back should be relatively painless also, which is nice. So from a usability perspective, in that sense, if you're looking for a printer that, you know, you're able to just set up once, configure once properly, and then be able to do multiple prints on again and again and again and again, this seems like a good printer overall to use. So that's really good. Let me again check to see. Okay, the bed is cooling. I'm going to check the printing temperature really quickly here. Or I'm sorry, I'm going to check the bed temperature really quickly here. So right now it's at 45. I guess if Dave has any recommendations, I don't want to, yeah, it's still stuck. I don't want to go and start prying the print off the print bed quite yet. I guess, do you have a recommendation about what temperature it's safe to remove the print from the bed at? I guess once we hit a certain temperature, maybe it's safe, or do I just kind of continue to try to wiggle it and try to see if I can get it off? I know that's one thing that I didn't do when I reviewed the JG Aurora A5S is I was a bit impatient, and I did just end up taking the print off the bed not too early, so I don't think I damaged the print bed in any way, but I did have to re-level after that live stream, and I really should have waited. All right, so Dave Wilson says 35 degrees is his target. Okay, cool. So we are almost there. One other thing I guess that I would have to say is from a usability perspective, I definitely prefer these types of beds with kind of a quick release functionality as opposed to printing on glass over tape that requires you to use the scraper tool. So kind of a clumsy story, I guess. When I was doing a video about another printer, and I was testing a print, I used the scraping tool and I was trying to get under it, and so much that I accidentally ran the scraping tool into my hand, and it bled kind of severely. So and unfortunately the next day I had to make a video for the Creality Ender 5, which doesn't have that kind of bed. So the Creality Ender 5 has a magnetic flexible build plate, which is another kind of print bed surface that I like a lot. But I actually had to have my hand bandaged as I was doing the setup for that video. So if you look closely in the Ender 5 video, you'll see me kind of trying to hide my bandaged hand as I'm setting that up. So I guess little inside knowledge for you, behind the scenes knowledge, that if you go back and look at the Creality Ender 5 video, you'll see an injured Alex with a bandaged hand trying to hide the fact that he ran the print scraper into his hand. So with that story being told, I definitely appreciate printers where you don't have to use a scraping tool, because I know that if a print is really stuck and you really have to pry your scraping tool under there to try to get the print off, apparently that can be a bit hazardous to your health, and you can end up with a pretty gnarly scar right here on your hands. So definitely let my mistakes be your learning lesson, and always be careful when you're trying to use your sharpened scraper to try to remove a print from the print bed. All right, so Dave in this chat says that 35 is his target, like we said, but he said once it's completely cool, it self-releases. And it is definitely getting there, so it is getting cooler. That's exciting. All right, let's see. So the bed right now is at 40 degrees Celsius. So it's getting close. Just looking at this benchy right now in the live stream before we take it off the print bed, there really is no stringing of any kind, which is great. So that means the retraction settings are also spot on if you follow what's in Cura, so that's great. That's excellent. Detail-wise, I don't really see any issues with the benchy. I don't see any significant droops. In general, details on this print seem to be really well preserved. Again, the first time I ever noticed this with benchies that I printed, there's actually text on the back of the ship, and you can actually make out what that text says. So that's excellent. So okay, Dave says 35 and below for scraping. So do I try it? Do we wait? I kind of feel like we should wait. But then again, I kind of feel like seeing what this benchy looks like. Okay, it is getting colder, so that's good. Should almost be there. So yeah, hopefully the weather in Cleveland is similar to the weather in Florida. Right now, looking outside, we have beautiful sunshine and not a cloud in the sky. Hopefully that bodes well for today's NASA SpaceX launch, which is cool. Okay. And in general, while we just wait for this to cool, again, just a big thank you so much for tuning in to today's live stream. I really appreciate everyone that tuned in and gave me advice as I was both assembling the printer and gave me feedback kind of as the printer was printing. Big shout out to Brian for asking some great questions in the chat, and then also for Dave for his advice, not only on how to attach the Titan extruder, but also for his advice on this printing surface. So Dave had said that he is a previous owner of an FLSUN QQ-S, and his advice and his experience have helped tremendously during this live stream. So thank you very much for tuning in. I really appreciate that. All right, and Dave says, I cheat and I have a 120 millimeter PC case fan blowing on the bed to speed it along. No patience. That gives me an idea. Oh man, hold on a second. I don't know if it's, I guess for the next live stream, if we end up doing that, that is definitely something that I keep in mind. But now that you say that, that would have actually been a good idea, because I bought a variable power supply with some of the electronics prototyping that I do. And for the Elegoo Mars Pro video, when I was taking air quality measurement tests, I actually also bought a 120 millimeter case fan and could just power it up. Oh man. That makes me wonder if this printer can be modded. If I print a bracket, because if you remember when we had set up the printer, underneath it had these kind of like grated holes. If I print a bracket for this printer that can hold this fan in place so that I can cool the bed down more quickly, maybe that will be a cool mod for the FLSUN QQ. Oh wow, that's a really cool thing. If I end up doing that, I will definitely upload it to Thingiverse, and I will definitely give Dave Wilson a shout out for that great idea, because that is brilliant. I think I am definitely going to do that in the future. So, okay. Oh, I hear it. It's slowly coming off. Let's see. We're now at 35. Oh, it's coming. It's coming, I think. I'm gonna wait a little bit longer. Don't want to damage anything, and I don't want to risk injury by using the scraper on my hand accidentally. I guess real quick too, while we're waiting here, so I've kind of been keeping an eye on my live stream preview, and a lot of times it seems to be buffering. It seems that today I'm kind of having internet connectivity issues. I hope that the stream quality has been okay. I know sometimes I end up losing my preview. I hope that hasn't negatively affected the outgoing video stream. If it has, I sincerely apologize, and certainly I'll see what I can do for the next time for improving that stream quality. Dave Wilson says, attack it with a scraper. Oh man, Dave, you're egging me on, man. You just want to see, the next the Vine clip, the next meme 3D printer clip. No, I'm just kidding. That we can just loop over and over. All right, we're gonna see and hope that no makers were harmed in the scraping of this benchy. So the first layer actually comes off really cleanly. Ooh, that's nice. That's nice. Okay, so far so good. All right, Dave. Oh, we did it! And Alex has no injury. All right, wow. That came off really smoothly. Wow, that's really nice. Ooh, oh man, oh man, oh man. Okay, that is awesome. So let me now, that came off really easily. Well, Dave, thank you so much for being here. All of your advice today has been fantastic. I really, really appreciate it. All right, let's take a look at the print quality of this benchy. What I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna remove this brim here real quick. Just like that. And then I'm going to move the camera down a hair. Just like this. Then also zoom out. Oh. All right. So here we have the completed benchy. Let's focus in on that a little bit. All right, I'm gonna just peel this brim off here. All right, we're gonna clean that guy off a little bit later. All right, comparison time. Okay, thanks, Dave. He says the stream has been perfect on my end, so that's excellent to know. I was a bit worried as I was going here, keeping an eye on that everything was kind of dropping out. But if the stream has been going well on your end, that's really good to know. Thank you so much. Just lift one edge. Okay, we are off, and now let us see exactly how this guy compares. So here we have the benchies that we've printed on the LotMax SC10. We also have the benchy that we printed on the JG Aurora A5S. And finally, we have the benchy that we printed on the FLSUN QQ-S. And let us move the camera a bit and just try to get the same camera angle so we can compare them one to one. Okay, taking a look. So overall, looking at this benchy, the first thing that I notice is that there is absolutely zero stringing whatsoever. I know that in some of the previous benchies that I've printed, it was a little bit light, but overall, this one doesn't seem to have any stringing. The surface finish of the benchy is very, very smooth. Wow. So obviously they're kind of at the bottom here. You see a little bit of the remnants of the brim, but that's not due to the print. That's me just not taking it off kind of all the way. On the back here, do you guys see that? That's wild. You can actually make out the text that, or at least you can make out that there is text on the back of the benchy. I have never actually seen that in a benchy before. That detail was never visible to me previously, which is amazing. I know here at the bottom, depending on if I can get the light to hit it correctly, I guess white PLA is a bit hard to film. But what you'll see here is that underneath the benchy, there is usually text that says CT3.xyz or CT3D.xyz. I mean, that text also came out perfectly. Again, it's kind of difficult to see on camera because of the white PLA. But let me maybe get a pencil like I did for when I had the JG Aurora A5S and just color that in. Hold on, just so you can see that it is there and the level of detail is quite good. So hold on. So the D is a little bit smushed in the CT3D.xyz, but overall you can tell that it is present. So that was text that was also present on the JG Aurora A5 but was not present on the Lotmax SC10. What else do we see about this printer? Okay, we see that there is a little bit of a seam right here, and I think that's just due to the fact that that's every time it started a new layer, that's where it started printing. But that's certainly something that can be adjusted in Cura by maybe doing a random layer start position, so that's not really a big deal. Overall, wow, I'm just really impressed. I mean, you can even see and really clearly make out the frame around here in the front of the Benchy, in the front window. That came out perfectly. Zero ghosting, zero layer shifting. All the small holes, like here at the, oh, let me, I guess, zoom correctly. The small hole here at on the bottom of the Benchy is perfectly preserved. You can see that right here. The little hole where the flag goes is also perfect. Here in the areas where you had this bridging, maybe a little bit of drooping, but very, very minimal. Again, when it was printing the roof of the Benchy for that first layer, doing those massive overhangs, there was absolutely zero droop there. So that printed very well, like in terms of bridging. And overall, wow, I have to say that I am just blown away by the quality of this printer. Wow, this is really, really good. So, fantastic, fantastic. Okay, so final thoughts. We've been here since 10. It is now 1:25. So total from setup to finish of first test print, with some kind of figuring out of the printer setup as we went along the way, was about 3 hours and 25 minutes. Of that, I would say maybe 2 hours of that were printer setup, again with trying to figure everything out and showing you all the pieces. Printing was about an hour, so overall, you know, very little setup time, especially given the Delta style of printer that it was compared to a Cartesian printer, and the resulting Benchy quality is just super duper impressive. The print came off easily without me damaging my hand using the scraper, which is also very good. And I mean, in terms of perfection out of the box, this printer for this Benchy seems to be incredibly well configured, and this Benchy looks really great. So yeah, final thoughts. I'm very impressed with the FLSUN QQ-S. A big thank you to Gearbest for sending this printer for me to unbox and set up for you guys during this live stream today. In case you are interested in picking up your own FLSUN QQ-S, there is an affiliate link in the video description below that you can use along with a coupon code to get $10 off your purchase through Gearbest. And you know, if you are so inclined to use that, that's definitely appreciated on my end. Also, a big thank you to PCBWay for sponsoring today's live stream and sending these circuit boards out for me to show you guys during this live stream. Again, this was a copy of a board that I had used previously in my robotic drawing machine and DIY 3D scanner videos. So if that's something that you're interested in checking out, there will be links to those videos in the video description as well. A big thank you so much for everybody that stopped by today. Again, with the rocket launch, I know it's a busy streaming day for everybody, and I'm sure a lot of people will be tuning into that. But thank you so much for everyone that was here the whole time. Also, especially a big thank you to Brian Vines and Dave Wilson, who were active throughout the chat and helped me set up this printer. And also especially Dave, who has some experience with the FLSUN QQ-S while I was setting it up and offering some advice. If you guys have any follow-up questions about this printer that you might have, either if you're rewatching this live stream as a replay or anybody that's here currently and thinks of something after the fact, please do let me know. You can either leave a comment in the YouTube video description below, or also feel free to hit me up on social media, on Twitter, on Instagram, or whatever other social media platform that you prefer. It's a beautiful day. I think we are all ready to go launch some rockets, or at least watch some rocket launches. And I just thank you all very much for being here. So thank you very much for watching. I hope you all have a great weekend. Now let's go watch some rocket launches, and let's go super make something.